Hello, everyone. Let's make sure all the technical things are working. I think can you hear me? I had my computer in the shop, so, nope, we need this plugged in. Now you can probably hear me. Hello, everyone. Hi, Izzy. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining me today on live. Happy Saturday, or wherever you are in the world. Maybe you're further east than me, so it could be Sunday, depending on where you are in the world. Hello, Joanna King. Hi, is it Camilla? Hi. Pittsburgh. Hi, Izzy. Yeah, put your location in, everyone. I have created so many slides for you guys. So all day yesterday and this morning, I've been creating slides. So this is going to be a long one if you make sure you have your tea or your drinks. And if you need a bio break, you make sure you take care of that as well. It's going to be a long one today. Hello from Brazil. Oh, is it Camilla? Camilla. All right. So, and also, apparently, I am kind of new to all the algorithms for the live. So you guys maybe know better than I do on some of this stuff, that if you like the live, it will help push it out more as we're doing the thing. So that's always helpful. I have some of the keywords in the description, but I'm new to some of this stuff. So, so it's been a fun week in terms of getting my computer out of repair, because I am notorious for 50 tabs open, and I was just hurting my computer, so I had to take it in for a little bit. So now I've got it back, and hopefully I don't break it again. So, well, thank you, Camilla. I really appreciate that. It lets me know that it's people are enjoying the content. Sandra, hi, you made it. You're back on power. Gosh, Seattle got hit in the Pacific Northwest with a big storm. So glad you're on, Sandra. Karen, hi. You're from Central Oregon. Oh, you're near me. I'm in West Richland in the Tri-Cities of Washington State. So for now, anyway. All right. Yes, Izzy, you can ask questions. Yeah. So when you ask questions, guys, please, maybe put a big Q so I can see it easily in the stream. So I will get started here on the details in just a minute. I want everybody to get settled in. And so I'm going to keep my phone close by so I can see the detail, because once I share into my slides, I don't know if I see everything as clear. So I have this as well. All right. Hi, Linda from Tennessee in the Smoky Mountains. Nice. Welcome, everyone. And I don't know, in Brazil, I know we're going to be next week celebrating in the United States the Thanksgiving holiday, which will be nice. But I don't know. Is there any holidays coming up for Brazil in November? Maybe for sure in December, but I don't know. What do you guys celebrate in Brazil around this time of year, if anything? All right. Well, we are definitely getting going here. So, all right. So I'm going to just dive in. It's about 4 minutes past the hour. So if you have any questions, please remember to just drop them into the chat with the big Q, maybe, or, that makes me see it faster, I think. Or even an emoji with it, so it's like it pops out. I don't know if people have the ease of using emojis. Now, I'm curious about people, like what they're watching the live from. Are you watching the live from your phone, or are you watching it from like a laptop or like an iPad or something like that? I'm curious. So if you want to drop that in the chat, let me know kind of how you are observing this. because, and also, so you watch the live one way, but if you go back to content, do you also watch everything from your phone? I'm curious because, the charts can be kind of small on your phone, but maybe that's not as important, y'all. So just curious about that. Okay, so we got phones and laptops. Okay, I'm old school. When I have astrology, kind of like when I'm consuming astrology stuff, I really consume the bulk of it so I can see charts a lot in more detail when I'm on the laptop. So I was just curious about what everybody else is doing. So the phone is the most popular. Okay. And you also like the content and are interested in astrology, or you wouldn't be here. So most of you are consuming a lot of this content then from your phone, and that's interesting to see. I would imagine you're also on other forms of social media because of the content being Bridgerton. I kind of look across Instagram and TikTok for some information that people share, but I build everything for my live in YouTube from my laptop. Oh, thank you, Camilla. So you only have the Christmas in December. Okay. And of course, you guys celebrate maybe New Year's. All right. Oh, thank you, Camilla. Brazilian, and hugs to you too. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen so I can dive into my charts and all the fun stuff and get going. So here we go. Share screen. Let's see which one I can. I want to do is this one. Let's see here. Hold on a second. Entire screen. Windows. This one. All right. Can you guys all see that? Oops. Let's start at the first slide though. Boop. There. So this is like the starter slide. All right. Can everybody see everything okay? So I'm doing this from two screens. So bear with me if I'm looking back here. Okay. Can you see that okay? All right. Actually, let me just see if I can't jack that up. Oop, that's too big. Let's go right about there. Okay. All right. Let's get going. All right. All right. We have about 33 people in here. So good. Okay. So we're going to start off with, ease into the astrology. But hi, Joe. So we're going to do a little bit of Claudia. I know we haven't brought in Claudia, but I wanted to do a little bit because I love Claudia too. And just because I wanted to kind of bring in some friends stuff as it pertains to all of them. So Claudia, Nicola, and Luke, I'll focus a little bit on that. And also I have other things as it pertains to some of what Luke had recently announced as well, and his co-lead on that new detail. So if you guys would like to support me, I opened up, buy me a coffee, but I drink tea. So you can buy me a tea since this does take a lot of energy to create this, these slides, and just it's a lot of work. So if you guys don't mind supporting me, I really appreciate it. I'm going to just drop this link for my buy me a coffee. I haven't turned on all the bells and whistles for YouTube yet, and from what I understand, there is also quite a bit, like if you do donation stuff through the YouTube platform, that it takes a whole bunch of it. So it's just like, this is a better way to support me, I think, because of the amount of work that it does take to do these. So you are able to do that through the buy me a coffee thing. So I appreciate every little bit that you can share and offer, and I always love that. So there's that for you guys. Okay, so let's dive in. We're going to take a look at, I want to look at Nicola and Claudia Jesse first, and just kind of let's just take a snapshot of their friendship. Can I put the link in the video description too? Yes, I can do that after I get done with the live, because if I jump around too much, I might lose the live. So yes, I will put the link in the description after. All right, so for Claudia and Nicola, we're looking at quite a few things that are interesting about their charts. And I absolutely adore Claudia, and I'm sure many of you do too. But when you put the two together with Nicola and Claudia together, it's kind of fun to just, just you feel the friend vibes completely from them and how much adoration they have for each other. And what I love about their charts is like how much they have so much Scorpio. So I bet you their jokes and their conversations can get rather spicy. This is so interesting because of all of this energy up in the top of Nicola's chart, because I put Claudia on the outside because we don't have a time of birth for Claudia, but we know that her birthday is October 30th, 1989. And that detail is out there, so that's good. But I just thought, wow, so much energy going through their. So Nicola's 10th house is kind of visible. So whenever they do interviews, this would be interesting, and how they might like get each other, like, thinking because of that much energy up there. But it's like Claudia has so much Scorpio in her chart. And I was kind of looking at some of the other projects that she's done. And one of them was like on a police force in forensics, which is very much that Scorpio. And there was one of the little short films that she did. I think it was Copy Girl or something, Copy something. And that was a cute little short film that she did. It's on YouTube, I believe, and I really enjoyed it. And it's cute because it's kind of about connection and relationship and these kinds of things. And I just love the way she's a great actress. I love her. And so in the chart between Nicola and her, I also kind of saw that the moon the moon, of course, can move 13 degrees in a day. So it's not exactly 16, but it's definitely interesting that when I pulled up just a noon chart, that might be, for Claudia, an interesting kind of perspective, because then it is opposite her Nicola's moon in Taurus. So there's kind of that synergy between kind of opposite. And so they would get each other in different ways. But it's kind of like it's so much Scorpio energy. And then considering the Sagittarius, like having Claudia's Venus in Sag connected to Nicola's Uranus in Sagittarius is so, because they just go off, right? So sometimes she just does the weirdest fun thing when they're doing the interviews. And to me, that's kind of like when she's with Nicola, how she might go off like that, the wazoo and all that stuff she does. So it just makes me laugh. I love it. And what other connections I saw? I also like that Claudia's, now we don't know Claudia's ascendant, so I wouldn't look at that ascendant detail there. I kind of not look at that. And I wouldn't necessarily say that Claudia's midheaven is Scorpio, but when I think of her projects, I kind of think she might have the Scorpio at the top of her chart as well, or she has Scorpio in the 5th house, maybe, because that would be her projects. So there's different kind of things that I've been thinking about as it pertains to Claudia's chart, but I wouldn't necessarily say right out of the gate. There would be a lot of work that would go into rectifying Claudia's chart. But of course, she's also born when Pluto was in Scorpio, so it's extra powerful Scorpio energy within that generation. And of course, Claudia has that as well. And I do know that Claudia is a vegan, and that's not surprising with a moon in Scorpio that she would choose be more sensitive to like food, because I know that about Scorpio. From my own daughter has like 5 planets in Scorpio, so Scorpio has an interesting thing as it pertains to like how they think about food and where that is in their chart. So it would be interesting to rectify. If I could rectify her chart, it might take some time because she is super private. And being super private is also part of that Scorpio. And that's very similar to Luke Thompson as well. It might kind of makes me wonder if that's not on one of their angles, like how they present themselves to the world, but that it plays out through their art. Claudia also has 29 degrees Libra Mercury. Now, Nicola doesn't have anything at 29 degrees of Libra, but it's just the connection in the friendly like combination, because the Mercury would connect with the friends and how that would play out. I also think, if I'm not mistaken, Claudia is a kind of a spokesperson for how the fashion industry is and what she chooses to wear. She's very conscious about that. So she's almost like a spokesperson for, she's almost like a complete different spectrum than what Nicola is when it comes to fashion, because Claudia on purpose will wear something that's maybe from a rewear situation or that kind of thing. She has a very strong I don't know, that showed up in her interviews. Yeah, exactly, Tamasha. I think that it really shows in their chemistry. You can see that in their charts, right? Another thing I thought was interesting with their combination is because of the strong, I think the strongest thing I think is the Venus placement, but you could also kind of, this Vesta, but Vesta is very much, that Vesta sits on Nicola's sun. And so there's kind of like that feeling at home with someone, that heart, but it's almost like they, I think there's something to that about when they could be alone together and it would be just fine, at each other's, own place. And it's very, it meets their needs and those kind of things. Like that kind of makes sense for Claudia and what she would like. But she prefers almost to be alone. But I think Nicola has the same, kind of thought about when she's on her own time, that she likes to have that solitude. So that's kind of interesting. What else that I really liked? What I also thought, I mean, that's a asteroid. Which one was the A7? I think is Proserpina. But I think there is underneath in the feminine asteroids that I was pulling up for some of this, the A7 I think is Proserpina, which is like Persephone, and so you can kind of have an understanding around the women's rage and empowerment, detail that activates within their charts in the creative sense. So they may do artistic film or cinema, whatever, as it relates to those subjects as well. And so there's like a little bit of a tie there. So I thought that was interesting. I'm cautious to put too much weight on the asteroids, but they do activate, right, when they're connected with the synastry. So those are the strongest ones I get from this. And also, Claudia's sun is so close to the Pluto that is Nicola's Pluto at the top of the chart. And so that's a powerhouse combination when you put those two together. So it's not surprising that they would have like so much energy when they come through. And especially when you add in Luke, because you can see when you add in Luke with Nick, like Claudia's the third wheel, right? Like when they were doing the interviews, you'll see how then Luke's, like how Claudia and Luke connect up, and you put them all together. It's just like, what? I mean, it's just so much energy. What else did I like? Oh, the Saturn in Capricorn is, and the Neptune in Capricorn is very creative in what it will bring in and what it will manifest. And it will have some surprising things, because she's of the generation like Luke, where they have the Uranus and the Neptune in Capricorn, and that's very creative, and it's almost like bringing like the imagine into the made manifest. So it's bringing it into the third dimension and creating something real and with a bit of a legacy on it as well. but they're going to do it in a completely different way. So what they do may stand out that they do it in a different way. So if you think about Claudia as a star, how so different she is in terms of what she stands for when the fashion. I mean, fashion, not that veganism, but if you go back 25 years, it might be hard to find stars who were vegans, right? So this is kind of like that new, kind of new Aquarian type energy that's coming in, and that what shows up that's then represented in a bigger way through someone who's very visible from being in the spotlight through their work, right? Even though she's a very, very private person. So that's kind of interesting. It's also an interesting combination when you put Claudia's 9 degrees of Saturn and Nicola's Pluto. So that creates like a yod, and then you put them together. So there's a point on the other side of the chart, which would be in Gemini. So anything at like 9 Gemini would then get really lit up. So if there's any planets that are passing through at that point would receive that. So any kind of communication and whatnot. So if you think about the third season activity, there was a lot of energy in Gemini. So it was like those interviews and things that Claudia was participating in, how those, that point at 9 Gemini would have been really like where these two coming together would be really, really lit up. Also, I think it's interesting to see that Claudia has Jupiter in Cancer, and that Jupiter at 10 degrees is also opposite her Neptune. So Claudia has an interesting kind of sense with family because that Jupiter, but there's some kind of wound that's close by. And I would make an argument that there's something that she experienced emotionally around, nurturing or whatever, or security when she was around 6 years old, just because that Jupiter would progress by solar arc and connect with that when she was about 6 years old. So there's a storyline there. So I look like for those types of connections as well. So that's kind of interesting. I mean, she has a very powerful opposition kind of combination in her chart that would play out through her moon and how she might bring that emotion into her creative, right? So that's really interesting. All right, so that's a little bit of Nicola and Claudia Jesse. So let's jump over to see Claudia with Luke. So I've got Luke on the interior and Claudia on the outside, of course, and I've marked off the midheaven and the ascendant. Let me just pause for just a second to check out what you guys are saying here. Okay, so yeah, I don't have anything. Okay, so this is really, really interesting how Claudia connects up with Luke, because Claudia's North Node, South Node combination of her moon, these are her lunar nodes, they are sitting right on Luke's Saturn and his Chiron. So it's fascinating that her nodal axis, kind of very important arc of the life kind of stuff, sits right on Luke's chart in such a huge way. And then you add in all this Scorpio together, it's almost like you could say that having the fame and the anxiety around the fame is like reflected in both in such a powerful way, if that makes any sense. So if it was just Luke and just Claudia, those nerves, those undertones of that kind of experience is really palpable, if that makes any sense. It's like, wow, so much Scorpio. So Claudia's Scorpio, when their interaction, it lights up his psyche. So I'm sure she lights him up. But I have a brother who's also many planets in Scorpio, and he is the funniest guy ever. And so it makes me think of like the comedic power that helps diffuse an environment to be um, easier to be in, because the comedic energy helps bring that energy to a different feeling. And I kind of wonder about that for Claudia as well. As like, does she have that power of the comedy, because she's been doing it for probably forever, and she just has that sense of humor, but it's a sense of humor that's been refined over time because she has so much Scorpio. Because Scorpio has like it wants to protect itself, right? And so the especially the psyche, or it has a sense of people in the Scorpio energy. So it's like you can really tune into people and their BS really fast. And then, but how do you operate day to day, and how you might operate in groups or in special like occasions? I kind of put these two together as like, wow, what an interesting. But what I could kind of think about with Claudia when she's in the public is she's very, um, she's a quite, she holds her style like, um, how do I describe her? Like, remember when she was at the premiere in London and how she was so um, supportive of the younger cast and those kinds of things? But it's kind of like that caring nature because she's just sensitive to like what other people are feeling. That's maybe it's better. It's just she has like just an innate sexiness to her, but she's also super funny. I think we're going to be shocked about what we can get in the performance from her when it becomes her season. I mean, what are your thoughts on Claudia's season? I think that would be season 5, maybe. Um, do you think she's going to be season 5? I don't know. I don't know the order of the books. Is she like, is her story like the 5th book? I'm not sure. Um, but you guys can tell me if you guys know. I don't remember the order of the books, but that doesn't mean that they'll stay to the order of the books either. You know what they've shown us already. Um, and what else? So with Luke connection with Claudia, it's kind of interesting about just their combination and how it lights up that the self and other as it pertains to Luke's chart, and then how much her presence with Luke brings in such dynamics from what is the undercurrent, what's in the psyche, and the bonds that are so incredibly tight and close as it pertains to that Scorpio energy is like really significant bonds, right? And so that's powerful. Also, her Venus in Sagittarius on Luke's chart is close to his North Node, kind of in between his North Node and Eros. And so that's also very friendly, outgoing. And that Venus is a trine to his Leo rising energy, and, a friendly. But when it comes to the work and their dynamic in the group, it works well together. She also, because her North Node is in, um, her North Node's in Aquarius, I think she also brings something to the dynamic of understanding the connection of her and Luke. That's interesting. And so it kind of makes me wonder about like what may be when she has her season, how they support Claudia in how she may be with that whole media frenzy that happens when they have the same kind of world tour for Claudia's season. Yeah, Joe, me too. I'm interested to see how that plays out because I love her sense of humor and what she will do with so much media on her in that year when it's her season and when that would be released. That'll be very, very interesting. Um, what else on Luke? Oh, also with Luke and Claudia, look at the Jupiter. It's like the Jupiter for Claudia so close and connected to Luke's Mars. And so there's almost like this, when Luke is with Claudia, usually they're all three of them together, right? But when they're together, she has, because her Jupiter's in Cancer, it brings such a kind of almost like a blanket into the situation around that sensitive Mars that he has. About maybe it's more of a calming a bit, maybe because of her power to diffuse some of the energy, because she gets him because of all the Scorpio at the bottom of the chart and Psyche. So that's really interesting, as part of their charts as well. Is there anything else? I kind of am curious at what time of day Claudia was born, because if she's born, I'd have to go back and study, like, to understand. I think she's probably born in the day, but it could be that she's born at night. Because if she's born in the day, that means the Saturn combination is actually a little bit more challenging to navigate from a traditional astrology standpoint. If she's born in the day, it's Mars. Mars becomes then more challenging, but her Mars is in Libra, so it's kind of like a little bit more activated around, almost like an ambassador, but it has to operate from Venus's place of Libra. So it operates a little bit differently. So it kind of makes me wonder about that, in terms of time of day that she might be born. Because I think if she was born at night, it would be incredibly more challenging with that much powerhouse of Scorpio at the bottom, versus having it at the top of her chart. I really think that there might be that, like Scorpio Sag at the top of her chart, possibly for the combinations of the roles that she's gotten, but that's a bit of an exploration. Anyway, so that is kind of the combinations that I was seeing when I pulled up both their charts. So that's fun to explore, right? Definitely can see really significant connections, almost more connection with Luke, as it pertains to the working relationship. But so to me, I kind of wonder, will Luke have other projects that might tie into Claudia in some way? Maybe. It's interesting to explore that North Node so close to his Saturn. I tell you what, I bet you Claudia is one person who really knows about the experience that Luke has had around the social media craziness, but it's also her sensitivity, and that's why she will be even more private, right? So it's kind of interesting what she will do during her season and how they will manage that, just like how they will manage Luke Thompson. She's going to have an experience of someone else going before her who's really not on social media. They're kind of managing that, right? So that's going to be interesting to see how they work that in and have that managed by someone else, because they really aren't on them, on the socials themselves that much. All right, so let's continue into December. Someone had a question around the new moon, and so this one, I believe, is just the chart of the new moon coming. I put it in London just to show that for London. Pull up my notes here. So, okay, so that new moon, December is an interesting month, for us all. There's going to be Mercury will be in retrograde, because Mercury goes into retrograde on the 27th of November, and that I think is starting at like 21 or 22. I didn't do a chart for the Mercury retrograde because it's such a common thing, but it does activate a lot, because Mercury is in Sagittarius and Jupiter is in Gemini, and so there's mutual reception between the two. So it actually has a little bit more power to manifest things in ways that people could be surprised, because and there has been a lot going on, if you've noticed. But it continues. And another one is just because we have also Mars in its transit in Leo is getting ready to station pretty soon at 6 degrees, and it will be opposite. It's opposite Pluto. That combination is powerful. Very, very powerful. Now that the sun is in Sagittarius, I would imagine we're going to see more happening around the globe because it's kind of like international relations, foreign relations, anywhere you're looking, right? So if you're looking from London, or if you're looking from US or Canada or Brazil, your neighbors in around the globe, Sagittarius, those are foreign places. There's going to be a lot of activity around the globe because that's Jupiter. And when Jupiter and Mercury in each other's signs, they're communicating across each other. And when Mercury is going retrograde, it's just throwing a whole big wrench into the situation. So it's going to be a bit of challenges related to that. How does it relate to our stars that we're looking at? We'll look at we'll look at Luke and Nicola. I didn't look at Claudia per se because I don't have her time of birth, but we'll look at these guys. But it's the Mars opposite Pluto, and Mars stationing is major, and I would say that's even more major for Luke, and but also Nicola, because of the Mars being such an important planet as it pertains to Nicola's career, Nicola's communication, what she does in her communication and the social media, because here's what I get a sense of on the social media, because Nicola has the intense Scorpio at the top of the chart, where Luke is more secretive, and because he has the Scorpio at the bottom of his chart. If you notice that, so she's the one who tends to do a lot more with hiding hints and clues and things like this in her social media. Some of you follow certain folks, I'm sure, on TikTok who like explore all those things. I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. But I think it will be interesting to see what transpires as Mars stations. So December 6th is when Mars stations, and that will be leading up to it, because it's but definitely the day, December 6th, December 6th and 7th, Mars is just like standing still in the heavens, and it's emphasizing that opposition. So it will to Pluto. And so it's kind of like they may make decisions based on something that they feel the pressure of the social media frenzy, right? Or something that's going on related to that. Because Pluto in Aquarius is about our relationship to technology, first of all. So they have a relationship to technology. Now, of course, they utilize it for their work, and their being a spokesperson for whatever they stand for, or their work, or just, that's what they do for a living, right? So, God bless them for being in the public eye so much, but you know what I'm saying. But with Nicola, because let's see if I have her chart so you can kind of see this a little bit better. Here's Nicola's chart on this new moon, okay? So you see, well, that didn't pull right. Is that the new moon and hers on the outside? I just realized that it's pulling something different here. Let me see if Luke's pulled. Luke's pulled correctly. Hold on one second. I'm going to correct this. If you give me 1 second, I'm going to pull in that chart better. One moment, please. I just noticed something. Nicola. While I'm doing this, if you have any questions, drop them in now. And let me get the new one. There we go. And then we get the copy. It's still pulling incorrectly. Why is it doing that? Oh, I see. Okay. 1 second. Is it this one? Oh, yeah. Here. I need to do that one. 1 second. I got it. Sorry about this, but sometimes it pulls the wrong chart and I just drop it in and then off to the other thing and I don't catch it. Here we go. No, it's not that one. There we go. That one. And then the first. There we go. New moon. Copy, send. Can you see this okay, guys? Let me know if you can see this okay. There we go. This shows you Nicola's chart at the new moon. And what I think is important is how much is in her house of Sagittarius, which is her house of friends, but also that Mars is in her 7th house for Nicola. Tamasha, you asked me the question, do empty houses in a chart indicate anything in particular? What it indicates is that's not where a lot of energy, you have to kind of look at not just the house itself, but that what is the sign on the cusp of that house. And so that would be Leo, right? So her ascendant in Aquarius means that her descendant or 7th house of others, significant others, is Leo. And so it's the work that she does behind the scene, you know, that's the sun. So when she has a relationship, it will be focused on pulling that very private. I hope that makes sense. So having the Mars go through the 7th house and having all this activity will be a disturbance a bit around, because when you're born in the day, like Nicola is, Mars from a traditional standpoint is your more malefic, challenging planet. Okay. So when you have Mars angular in your chart, like transit, it's activating kind of things that you're having to respond to from other people. So it makes me wonder, a couple of things are definitely on the horizon that we know of is that Jake Dunn's movie, is it William Tell? Something? That movie's coming out on her birthday in January. So there'll be a lot of buzz around that, and that will then add in Nicola because of how that's been in the social media. And I haven't said one way or another if they are in a full-blown romantic relationship. People make opinions on that. I'm not sure about that. I would not say that absolutely. I think they definitely are dear friends. I don't know if they have a romantic relationship, and I'm not going to allude to that either. I think it's important to kind of think. I think there's much more going on behind the scenes for Nicola pertaining to a significant other than she would ever present publicly. Okay. And so I have my own opinions on that. So I think I've said in another live or another video that Luke is still very, very interesting as it relates to Nicola, but a lot of the energy that is right now, I sense that it's really hard to tell in some of the astrology, except for some little hints maybe that Nicola has dropped in some of the pictures that have dropped from other people around her. But it's kind of like Jake is visible, but to me, that also speaks to something pretty powerful about what that is, right? Like close friend plus, you know, is there a fluidity to their relationship? And it wouldn't surprise me because, I mean, you know, an Aquarius rising person with that much Sagittarius might be open and fluid in the relationship. So I wouldn't even put that past her, right? So it's kind of like, time will tell in terms of what becomes visible at all as it pertains to her connection with Luke. Okay. Yeah. And I think it's still kind of interesting to observe and watch. And I'm learning more as each little thing happens in what is presented and how it hits their charts. Right. So there's that. So at this new moon, she has Mars in the 7th house, which is opposite Pluto. So it makes me wonder about how she will transform herself and other as this friction happens. For example, Mars is difficult for her. So you have to keep in mind, it's a difficult energy to try and control in some ways in the 7th house in Leo, because she wants to pull it. She wants to pull it back private, but something else is happening and pulling it out. Does that make sense? So there's a transformation that she's having to go through as a persona, her own self into the public. That's Pluto on her ascendant, yeah? And so Pluto right there is transforming what she thinks about or how she's going to present herself. And it might be more Aquarian type stuff in terms of how she does it. Like, so she gets activated. She does have a Mars in she has a Mars in Aries, yeah? And look at the North Node coming to her Mars. So to me, she's getting activated by Mars pretty dynamically. So it's like it's an agitator, one. Two, she will be outspoken in some way about something, about so she will be direct, cutting, and as that North Node comes to her Mars, she's gonna give it. so, so that's pretty big, right? And then Mars in the 7th house is it's in connection to something like that. So I kind of wonder, like, what activates her and her own Mars? Like, she's going to say something. Has she not said something before about privacy? You see? So that to me will be a potential something that's emerging. I kind of wonder around December 6th, but I think it's maybe when it's truly opposite and on her angle. I'm watching that Mars really close about when she does something, because when she does act, that to me will give me a tighter perception of where her actual ascendant is. Like, remember I said it's like 0, 1, 2, 3 degrees ish. I still think it's like 1 degree in some minutes. So it's like somewhere in there. So to me, that's really interesting. But also, it activates this trine of fire between her. She's got Venus at 1 Sagittarius, fire, midheaven, probably close by, so very public. That's how the public sees her, is that Sagittarius energy, and that's why people adore her. They love her. And then you have, but she's also got the Scorpio 10th house, career house, professional, like what she may do. That's also her Mars, like, right? And she's known for her accents in her work, and how she communicates. But these combinations is like, is she also going to have an announcement related to one of her? So I kind of think of multiple things going on. You have your public life, your public profession, right? And she's also in a 2nd house annual profection where Jupiter is the planet Lord of the Year for her while she's age 37. But she's coming up to her birthday. So she is 1 month from her birthday in December, right? And that starts activating the next year. It's kind of like starts, things start happening. And so when she hits her birthday, it's off and running, because when she hits her birthday on January 9th, now she's in a Mars Lord of the Year, and it will be, it will be Aries, it will be fast and furious, it will be cutting, it will be maybe some conflict that she's communicating, or she's got both conflict stuff that she's like speaking to, like she might, her activities around the social activism around ceasefire will intensify. But I also think it's personal. So this is where we're going to see Nicola come out. Okay. This will be interesting, because it's like, how does she present that image? And does she set up a strategy? Because Mars in Aries is way more instinctual, but it does have some sharp edges to it in terms of what it's doing, how it's doing it. She might act like a protector also to her friends. But Mars getting the North Node is, okay, you've got another whole level of game that you're bringing, Nicola, because now You're going to be communicating in a bigger way. You have a bigger stage. You have a bigger presence. And then she's possibly going to even be more visible because there's some awards stuff coming up and how she might land in that. She's a very powerful 10th house, Mars, so I kind of wonder about her achieving even more before her birthday. So I believe I have stuff on the Golden Globes at the very end here, but it's kind of interesting to see that those Golden Globes are going to happen. I think she might be nominated or nominations are coming. Somebody told me that's in the detail. So it wouldn't be surprising that she would end up in the nominations. And then January 5th is actual Golden Globes. And so that's just a few days before her birthday. So it'd be kind of interesting to see how Jupiter gives her more from right before the next year, because the next year is Mars in her birthday when she's 38. And she's building towards the opposition of Uranus opposite her own Venus. And that's going to be really, really huge in 2025. She also has so much energy from the Neptune and the Saturn, which I have the Neptune and Saturn information here, coming to her Mars as well. So there's just this complete, like, she can get swept up in something really, really big. I also think that if she's starting to film that one, if the production starts on that one film that she got where she's the mother rescuing her child, emotionally it's huge, and how it will burn through a lot of the energy that's going to hit her chart. So if I can't wait to find out when they announce when that production starts. If you know does anyone know when that production starts for that? I don't even know what the name of that film is. Does anybody even know the name of that film that she got? I'm sure it's on the horizon and then I don't know when the Faraway Tree actually releases either. That's interesting because that's kind of been hidden, right? And I wonder what that will look like when it does land. Is it Christmas next year that one's coming? I don't know. Maybe you guys know this. And it's hard to capture all the details. I do this part-time. So anyway, I think that's kind of interesting, but definitely the Mars for Nicola, when it goes station to go retrograde, it starts off in Leo and it opposite her ascendant, opposite the Pluto that's sitting on her ascendant. So it's very much that relationship she has between what she gives the world, what she understands about being different, because that's Aquarian. Aquarius rising is very different, but she has different things that she brings because she's very much from the Aquarius. She's like a humanitarian. The people that she gets connected with, at least from our outside looking in, have age differences, and that's also Aquarian. So she's definitely, got the cloak and that rising sign. She's definitely operating in that detail, and that she's partnered up with people from different, from England when she's originally from, Ireland. So, having those friends from other places around the globe and that kind of thing. But it's kind of interesting to see how that Mars cycle, that retrograde, because it's pretty much Mars stationing in December, but then it goes retrograde and it goes back into Cancer, which will be her 6th house. So more emotional, more protective in that way. And so the dates, do I have the dates for that? Let me just see here. I think I wrote these down. I did a lot on the Neptune and Saturn, but I don't think I had pulled out the dates on the Mars. So let me look in my other book here. So Mars stations December 6th, and then do I have my glasses? I don't have my glasses. There we go. That is, yeah. And then it's Mars will retrograde back into Cancer on January 6th. So interesting. Mars will retrograde back into Cancer on January 6th. So to me, that lessens the power of Mars, and she has a strong Mars, but in transit goes back into her 6th house. So it kind of makes me wonder about, does that open up a potential for leaks when it goes back into the Cancer, that's a possibility because of then it's at 29 Cancer trine to the Neptune. There's a potential for leaks around that time. Interesting. And then it will then continue its retrograde back all the way to 17 degrees of Cancer in February. And it stations direct on February 24th. So February 24th, she's then definitely in her Mars year, her annual profection. And during that time, that's going to activate opposite. So Cancer will be activating opposite her sun. Yeah, did you see that? Because when Mars goes back into Cancer, it's going to be opposite. And when it backs all the way up to 17 degrees in February, it's acting in opposition to the sun. So it wouldn't surprise me that she's not starting the filming of that one particular movie, because that to me is kind of symbolic in that detail between the Cancer and the Capricorn and activating the sun. So it will activate her around her persona, her essence, liking to be private. So it's getting activated, you see. And so that's kind of be another point in time that's like, February, when it's activating over the sun. And definitely over the sun about, because her sun is 18 degrees. So that would be like, February 7th-ish through February 12th-ish is really when it's totally opposite her sun. And then it goes all the way back to 17, and then it hits forward again. And so when Mars stations to go direct on February 24th, it will activate again opposite her sun in March. And that would be in like the second week of March. And that would be like March 11th through about March 14th, 15th or so, when it's like more exact, right? And so I think that's a pretty powerful moment for her, for those themes about what can be leaked, some kind of opposition to her sense of self or someone else. Now, the sun is another person in her life. So is it Jake? Is it Luke? Is it another co-lead? Is Andrew? I don't know. Are they doing? I don't think the promo for the faraway tree is going to happen that soon, but I could be wrong. There could be something to that if that's at that point. But I have a feeling that the faraway tree work that they did is coming out later and is still in post-production work on it. But I could be wrong. I think this may have like more going on with Jake a little bit, but it could be also Luke because of what may emerge out of Rome and Luke's work on his new project in Rome and that detail. So there will be a lot of kick up as it relates to both Nicola and how she might respond. And so it'll be interesting to watch the astrology, because it'll give us some other clues about what might be happening from their personal response to things, okay? Because I'm an observer, I'm just kind of learning through the astrology of what is transpiring for them and what is made visible. And in the charts that we see later for Luke, he's been interesting, because he went so private and so behind the scenes and so pulled back that it was interesting to see how he dropped in, boom, 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 with stuff with his recent stories on IG. It was like U2 or something meme, and then the getting ready for the drops for the People magazine and the announcement. He knew all that was in the works, so he kind of set the stage for that, right? So this will be interesting to see today. But I think I just, for Nicola with this new moon in Sagittarius, it's almost like activation of so much at the top of her chart. The Mercury is kind of having a review of some sorts. So I kind of like think about some of the stuff that she's been on deck for the awards, which I have in other charts, might be like looking at previous work, because the Mercury in Sagittarius is activating around her Mars, so it's around her work, but it's also maybe connected to how she projects herself in the world and some of her private life. So when that Saturn gets activated by the Mercury coming over and the Jupiter from the 5th house, the conversation is more about her work and her creative work, but there can be conversations kicked up about her private life. And that's because of the sun and the Mars, excuse me, not the Mars, but yeah, and the Mars is activating that, right? But it's also because the Mars is actually more powerful with the Pluto, because it's angular. And when things are angular, they're actually more powerful. But because there's been so much focus on her creative, that's the Jupiter in that 5th house, and that's getting activated again. So it's not surprising she's getting listed on some of these awards that we've seen. So that's interesting, right? So that's for Nicola. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And also that she's coming, the nodal to her, the north node to her Mars is really huge, really huge. I have a feeling there's more in there that will appear. It kind of makes me wonder about her being aligned more, because I feel like she's going to get aligned with something even more than her ceasefire Gaza stuff that she's done, because the next kind of indicators of that would be like Neptune's coming to the Mars. She's more likely to get swept up into something, right? So it kind of makes me wonder is what's the invitation for other things that are on the table or going to appear for her that would be something that she could get swept up in, that she doesn't control the complete conversation of the thing, but she could get swept up in it, and it could be difficult to navigate. But it's almost like a paradigm shift. So there's a huge paradigm shift coming, and I'll talk about that just with that Neptune coming to her, the North Node. Like I believe that it reaches her Mars. The nodes shift. Let's see here. Early January, right? Like on the 12th, January 12th, 11th, January 11th, the true node. And I often do my charts in mean node, but you could argue the true node because that's more precise, and we have vision as we do with computers these days. Is the true node shifts on January 11th, a couple days after her birthday? Yeah, 2 days after her birthday. To me, there's something that can roll in. That's the node shift, because the node is on her Mars, and so that Nicola. But then as the node shifts into Pisces and comes into connection with a Neptune, it's getting closer to the Neptune. That is really huge. Something to be swept up, sometimes creative. So I'm kind of curious maybe if there's more information coming about the faraway tree production and when it's landing completely in the beginning of the year. Maybe there might be announcements around that even more. So we'll see. Here's Luke around the new moon. We can see the 5th house. That new moon kind of activates so much of his creative house, his projects, his work. The sun and the moon at 9 degrees is trine to the Mars, activating his sense of self identity into the world. And so kind of like the shiny star for Luke is very present right now. And you can see at the top of his chart also the North Node coming to his Venus. And so that North Node within, I don't know, when it gets to the 2. Let's see. The week of Christmas, but it's kind of like 18th, 19th, right in there. I think it's actually right on my birthday, which is December 18th, when the North Node comes to Luke's Venus. And that is pretty major. So when the node comes to a significant planet, because that's which rules his house of career. And so when you have the North Node, it's like it could actually pick up like a nomination where he's more, seriously considered for something. So if there's like decisions being made around that time period, and that's really significant, right? So that could give him that that gift in his work. He's not quite out of. He's still in an 8th house annual profection, an 8th of Pisces. He's still more hidden. So to me, there could be something that emerges that's more that he could display it professionally. But I kind of wonder if he doesn't courageous and more instinctual of presenting something that he's connected to that benefits him from the heavens in terms of what he is manifest. South node is what you release, or something from the past. That's kind of more like the future. So he could, as far as I understand, still be working on the white Mars because that started in November, right? Or yeah, it started in earlier November when they actually started productions down in Rome. But I kind of wonder if like how will that take to film, because they're filming in the studio, and so much of that. Ooh, I hope my sound is not coming in. Well, hopefully when it's recorded, I'm sorry, Norma, maybe when it's recorded, it will make it through the final recording. I don't know if I have a bad internet connection right now. But it could be the connection on your side as well. I'm not sure. But with Luke's career, kind of, it's going to be interesting to see what transpires when it's his birthday, because when February, that'll be his next birthday. He'll be 32, and then he will be in a 9th house and in perfection. And then I would decided to do another kind of take from what he's filming right now, or maybe travel when it goes 9th house, and wherever the Mars is. But at that point, Mars is still in that retrograde, and of course that retrograde's coming back to his moon. So this Mars retrograde cycle for Luke is actually quite major, and it's really activating his ascendant and the Pluto opposite. So there's a lot of change going on for him in relationship to someone else, 7th house. And so the filming and the storyline for the White Mars is very interesting, of how because the White Mars book is actually individuals who go to the planet Mars, and they're cut off from the supplies from Earth and all that's out in that sci-fi thriller, whatever. But what I could tell about the film, it's being rewritten to be in Antarctica, as far as I know, and so they call it White Mars like that because it's like an outpost in Antarctica. And, it's like a psychological thriller, and that all that energy has a lot that could be part of that storyline that he's creating in that film. So I'll be I'm not depends on how much, I don't know if it's a horror film, maybe it has some horror aspects to it, but it makes me wonder about that particular thing that he's working on because of how that energy may be spent in his chart. And that's what I find interesting about astrology, is what they are doing while those transits are happening, because that Mars and how it's going to what it will show up on film, how he's activating, because it's activating it, moment by moment right now through the real-time transits. But when that movie actually lands, we will see what that was, right? So that will be interesting to like explore this particular Mars in Leo to Cancer retrograde cycle, and the Pluto opposite for this this particular project that Luke is working on, because it will be interesting to see how that might have played out in those themes, because a Mars in Leo is got a lot of bravado. It's bold, but then it goes from, being bold or whatever. But then when it goes back into Cancer, it's in full on protective mode, like that hero complex for being a protector. So, and that you're isolated. So that's a part of that storyline. So it's really interesting to kind of think about that, and then what that means for his co-star. Remember, anytime he has a contractual agreement, the co-star kind of picks up on the energy of what's happening in Luke's 7th house. So there's a transformation that with some technical. The technology is a huge part of this film, as far as I understand, because it's like being acting in like all the green screens, and then everything is like digitally created for the film after the fact, like in post-production, right? A lot of CGI stuff. So that's interesting. And that Lucy Hale, which I'll have other details on her, that will activate in her chart. And then all the Scorpio energy at the bottom of his chart, that kind of, added emphasis as well. So this new moon in Sagittarius is kind of interesting because of, highlighting a lot more activity around his creative work that he's doing right now. So that's really cool, right? But what's interesting is like how the Mercury, when the Mercury and the Jupiter are really activating his node. So it kind of makes me think about a past life connection, storyline, friend, or is this something brand new because the Mercury is in Sagittarius and the Jupiter is on the South Node, but because they're in the opposite signs, right? Because sometimes in life we get brand new people that we connect with, and then there's things that can play out with those people, or it's bringing in another past life person, and then we're acting out something, and how that works for both of them in their own psyches. Does that make sense? Because I had mentioned this before when I was doing some of the Bridgerton stuff about how the actors can actually align with a project that helps them work something out when they're working out the character, because it makes them think about it more deeply and they get into the character. And so it actually activates some kind of sense about it, feeling about it, and they can work some things out through that playing the character. It's just an interesting channel to kind of observe that as the actors play that out. What's interesting also with that Mercury retrograde is how it's like, of course, Mercury retrograde is always like 3 weeks, right? So it's November 27th through, what is the date of that? It's November 27th through December, what's the date? December 15th. And it goes from 22 Sagittarius all the way back to 6 degrees Sagittarius. So it's more that when it's when it was stationing and how that was lighting up his chart, of course, and the announcements as they were coming for Luke. And then the new moon is still kind of activating, but it's kind of coming back towards his North Node. So when that Mercury comes to 18 degrees of his North Node, that's when it's highlighting something else for him. So I would make the argument that December 3rd is an important date. And of course, December 3rd is just a couple of days from December 6th. So that week is very interesting for Luke because of what might be on the socials about his work and other things that can be announced, or what he's sharing on social media. Because the Mars stationing, to me, is he'll be a lot more active because we've already seen it, right? So that'll be an interesting kind of watching how those click in. And as they click in, I'm watching which day is really important for Luke, because it gives me a little bit tighter idea about his ascendant degree, because we want to narrow that down. So that is really interesting. So thank you for the question on that, because that was really a good one about, what's happening at the new moon for these guys. Let's see here. What else I got? How you guys doing? We're already an hour in. Whee! I have so many charts. This is probably more like 2, maybe more lives. But I hope that is helpful. We'll just see how it goes. Okay, so let's go a little bit further into Luke's detail and him and his photo shoot. Gotta love it. Okay, so this was the photo shoot he did with people. Thank you guys for giving me the dates. September 27th, I understand he did the photo shoot. I didn't put exact time. I put just 12 noon. I'm sure it probably took a couple of hours to do that photo shoot, but I just went with the 12 noon time just to kind of take a look. If anybody has a very, very specific time, I think you might have given it to me after I was doing my charts. That's possible, but that just moves the ascendant. But I'm kind of looking at the moon, and it's activating, of course, at 6 degrees Leo, which is interesting because that's where the Mars will station retrograde. So see that moon of that photo shoot and how it's being activated by the Mars on December 6th. Yeah, huge. And then we have Mars also in Cancer. So now Luke is in a brand new, because when his Mars is at 9 degrees retrograde in his natal chart. So he recently started a brand new Mars cycle. So he'll have a whole new Mars return chart. And so it'll give like another level of meaning. And Mars return is about 26 months. And you get another one. But this is a major Mars period of time because of the Mars retrograde coming. So it's really, really major for Luke. So we're coming into a period of time of major stuff for Luke. Oh, excuse me. Also, at the photo shoot, we can see, look at all that Libra, because Libra is fashion and the aesthetic and these kind of things. And I like that one of all of those photos. That was my favorite. So I pulled that one in. So you guys can tell me what your guys' favorites were. I also thought it was interesting that now Pluto was still in Capricorn. And I still think that's opposite his moon. So it's activating this kind of like all the body changes that he went through. And so he's still kind of reaping the rewards of like having this aesthetic appeal on other levels or different levels of perspective, because he did all that work, right? And so that's lining up for him. I mean, he does have Venus as the ruler of his 10th house, remember? And also at that period of time, Uranus is at 26 in its retrograde. It's about to link up at the 25 of his Scorpio Pluto at the bottom of the chart. When that happens, it's kind of like, activating Luke and a sense of his sexiness and his psychology and these kinds of things that's emerged from that part of him. Also, what else did I like about this? The Mercury in Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus, and his natal Venus is opposite. So she's a powerful. That's a very powerful combination of when this photo shoot happened and when it's going to translate for him, with the Mercury in Libra opposite his own Venus. And what else do I think is really powerful? The ascendant at 12 noon was at 8 Sagittarius, but it could be that was at 1 o'clock or something. So that could be, I really think the ascendant is somewhere in the, definitely for the photo shoot is in Sagittarius, because that highlights his creative work. Interesting though, the Venus is in Scorpio for that photo shoot. Also sexy, right? And the Venus is square the moon and square Pluto as well. So very interesting. So that's really interesting about that photo shoot. And also kind of the Jupiter is 21 Gemini in September when that was taking place. So it had maybe it hooked up on that to do that as it was just crossing over his south node. So that's kind of interesting, right? You guys enjoying this so far? I'm hoping you're seeing some of these connections and how powerful they are for every transit that's coming up. So this is when it dropped. So if you took the pictures in September, this is when it dropped on November 14th. And now you can see, look at the Jupiter right on his, within a degree of his south node, bringing that forward. The north node is getting closer and closer to his Venus. So it kind of makes me wonder who is going to be that chosen sexiest man. I don't know. Do they like select one, and when does that happen? I don't know. And I don't really follow that stuff. It's really hard. Sometimes I have to go find it. Look at the sun. At the moment that it's dropped, it's highlighting the Scorpio bottom of the chart and opposite the Uranus. Not quite exact, but it's still kind of activating that part of his chart, creating that. But look at the ascendant. The moment that it dropped was at 1:25 p.m. London time, and that ascendant was right on his Mercury. And so that Mercury then accentuates the placement of the sun, the placement of Uranus. It makes me wonder if this doesn't move towards something for Luke in so much more, because he's a part of this now, and that it takes him into another domain of getting projects because of his appeal, his public appeal beyond Bridgerton. I mean, he definitely has the white Mars, but other things he might be shooting for, what he's going for, because when he has his birthday, there are other projects that he's going to definitely be getting because of all of this momentum. So hopefully that makes sense. So that's really good for Luke, right? The other thing is when this photo shoot dropped, it highlights again, look at this, it's almost like it's faded. The midheaven of the moment of the drop is sitting on his vertex. That's fate. I love it. And that's connected to Nicola because of that being in the collective conscious of that combination between Luke and Nicola, because that vertex and his north node are so connected to her Saturn in their work. It's just powerful how that combination of them being co-leads and what that brought to them, and then how it continues to give, and and beyond that, the fandom, the consciousness within the fandom, even though it's more than chaotic, right? It's really interesting because of how much energy it just keeps giving, right? Like it keeps coming. So it's fascinating combination. That's another thing that's kind of coming down. I think where the fandom will go through a bit of a paradigm shift with Nicola, when the Neptune hits her Mars, because she can get swept up in more. So there's something else in the mix, and it's also Luke's Venus when Neptune and Saturn are right there. And so I kind of think 25, definitely big year. The 26, it's how that rolls out as other things come online. And I know in other videos that I presented that it's actually continues to increase for Luke, even though people were kind of like, what's the pause that was happening over the summer, and kind of waiting to see what would happen for him as he picked up on things, you know. But we're definitely going to see it. It's going to be incredible. He's going to be swept up in a lot of stuff too. So, and I, you know, we can go moment to moment to see these things and how the transits are hitting. But we can definitely see from that interview dropping and kind of how that absolutely right on the moment. I kind of was like, when I saw that ascendant at 26 Aquarius, it's like, the astrology, man, it's right on. And that ascendant changes a degree every 4 minutes. That's how precise that was for that drop. Amazing. Yeah. I mean, the synchronicity of how it's like communicating something, and it's communicating the, you know, a lot of parts of himself out into the world. But it's that drop is happening right before he gets announced for White Mars. So somewhere along the line, August, September, he's getting picked up on that People magazine stuff. And that's when they do the photo shoot. So he already knows that. So that's going down behind the scenes, right? But we don't get a whiff of it till later. I mean, unless people were behind the scenes and caught a whiff of it in September when he was doing the photo shoot, right? So it's really interesting to see when it actually lands into the public, and then how that picks up the energy and then picks up the frenzy of the fandom around them, right? So definitely Luke's is more interesting because he can go so dormant, or he was this year because he's in an 8th house annual profection, but it's like how it drops, when it drops, and the precision of it. And it's like, it's working. It works so magnificently. I love it. Hi, Camilla. Yeah, try to get off the ship, but I can't. Yeah, astrology, put you back on the ship. Yeah, there you go. It's just it's amazing to me. I'm a little bit more objective, I think, than some in the shipping department, or ship itself, whatever. Because you know, maybe because I'm older, I don't know, and just I'm such an objective viewer into it. But I continue to be fascinated by the connections that are made within their charts. And I don't even have, like I said, I don't even have explicit times for their birth exactly, but I have hunches based on that, where things are landing. And I still think both of them are. I think Nicola's is probably 1 degrees of Aquarius for her rising sign. I think, see that Mars at 3 degrees of Leo makes me wonder about his Mars being, or his ascendant being at 3 degrees. And I had mentioned 0 to 3 for Luke, maybe even going a little bit further into Leo, but it's more like right there in the beginning. And so that Mars right there, that's a sensitive spot. But I could maybe even make the argument around 6 degrees of Leo, because it's when major things. This was major to have this spread land on this with that ascendant right at that moment. It's almost like, those are lining up pretty tight. So I'll keep playing with it, because these are the kind of stack of events that I start pulling together to maneuver exactly the precision to the progressed moon for the rectification. So that's pretty fun. What else do I have for Mr. Luke? Because that was the drop. What else do we have? The next one, this was the YouTube meme he did. Bridgerton YouTube thing. Not YouTube. He said U2 in the meme, excuse me. And that was in his IG stories. And that was November 17th. You guys gave me that date around 2:15. You also gave me the time about, because I didn't have that stuff. So this one is a peculiar one because it's him actively pushing out something that Bridgerton, had something, and then he's putting out something from there, I believe, into his story. And so now you can see, look at the precision here. I love the precision. It's so crazy. It's like it gets activated and it just produces something. It's like, here you go. The sun is sitting on his Pluto. The Uranus is in precise opposite as well, activating his His sun, his Leo rising, and his sun being in the, and look at Psyche. Psyche is again at 16 of Aquarius. I was just like, wow. And then the Mercury, look at how many things on this one little meme in this one little story, because he's the one taking the action on that story, right? And this is more stunning, I think, because he's the one taking the action, not just like People Magazine or somebody else doing it. It's him doing it, right? And then the moon and Jupiter on his south node, Mercury on his north node. It's just like, wow, look at that. That makes me think that, gosh, is that rising sign at 3 degrees of Leo? Yeah, look at how powerful this one is. Stunning. And then the ascendant at 2:15 p.m. in London time on that November 17th has the ascendant on his Venus. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. It's just so stunning, right? You guys? I mean, look at that. Amazing. What you guys saying? Haley says, question. I think more and more it does, Haley. It's really showing the Leo really active. And that's why December 6th, and then now definitely, because think of like how quiet and pulled back and out of view Luke has been. And if we have, when the next time he drops, seriously, mark the time. Like, what is it London time? What is it New York time? Whatever it is, write it down, because I'll be asking, because I'm not always watching. You guys are probably watching more than I am, because I come to you after the fact. It's like, mark it down, mark down the time as soon as you see the drop, because that's the drop. That's the precision of the ascendant, because that does help us see what his action is in, because the stories are very powerful, because what is he putting out there? Because that's his action, that's his free will, and him putting out. Right now, if we know anything about Luke, he does it on purpose, relating to his work. That's how he uses the social media. But it's interesting that he was responding to Bridgerton, and that Bridgerton fandom will completely come alive and activate again, right? But it's how, because he knows, it's like, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Luke Newton puts it out there, and the fandom goes crazy, right? And then everything on the peripheral, whatever. But he knows that I have this star quality. I'm going to activate the thing. I'm going to activate the hive mind as soon as I do this. He knows that. And yes, and I mean, the precision. And what's the value of knowing this stuff is every time we have a piece of evidence, we are seeing astrology at work. Is he paying attention to the minute? No, he's just in the flow, right? Now, one could argue that maybe on some things he's guiding it to when he's going to post or whatever, but it's more like, okay, I know that New York is awake now, so I'm going to post now. Like, that's why they post in the afternoons in London, right? Because they get more of a huge audience in the United States. Quite the market, right? Or North America, South America. I mean, you have all of Brazil and everything. I mean, around the globe, But think about like your US or North America, South America combination, that if he hits it at the right time, he's hitting huge amount of audience across Europe and all of that, plus that part of the globe, right? Pretty powerful. But also how that, depending on the time of year, where that ascendant is and where it clicks in. Because that ascendant speaks to the moment, like a snapshot, and then what is being activated, right? And so Mars is very, very key right now. And so it's going to be fascinating to see how it activates him and his persona into like how he gives himself out to the public, and then how that activates, and then that activates the fandom, and the fandom, especially the Lucola ship, and all of that, and anything on the periphery, because some people aren't on the Lucola ship. And so they might not have, they might like be looking at other things. That is something that is coming that I think is going to stir the pot in a massive way, is the co-lead connection that he has with Lucy, and what that will be, how people will perceive that thing coming in. It's not quite out there because they haven't been photographed together. They just have like separate, like individual pictures in these announcements, right? But we'll go into that because I'm going to do Lucy next. And then I'll do the White Mars a little bit. But I wanted to kind of pinpoint that YouTube, Instagram stories meme was so powerful because of what it's showing about Luke in him activating something, and then his presence within it, plus the past a little bit, because that's the Bridgerton meme, right? And that's activating the South Nodes, all that kicks forward, right? Fascinating. I mean, with the Mercury in the Sagittarius and the Jupiter in, because remember, he's still in an 8th house annual profection. So it's almost like a message coming out from behind the scenes and how it can be picked up and all of that, because he's doing it right in the mix of the people spread, then this, and then the next thing that happens is the White Mars deadline announcement. And he knows that's coming, right? Because he is in Rome and he's going to be photographed in Rome. And I believe that there was another Instagram story hit from someone else, him tagged in it. He looks really good in the baseball cap. And so that's pretty much like, got to make the announcement because he's going to be photographed in the public in Rome by, doing his thing in between filming, right? Here's when the announcement happens from the White Mars, the deadline detail, because that's where it came out. And what was nice about that is we have an 8:36 a.m. Los Angeles time, and then we have Luke's chart in the middle. Now I want you to pay attention to something really, really important. That moon on that announcement is at 4 degrees of Cancer, and I think that's very, very important for another chart. So keep that in mind. But it's activating close to his Mars, okay? But it also activates the buzz from the sun on the Pluto in Scorpio opposite the transiting. This is still very, very active, the Uranus in Taurus. This is highlighting kind of like, because it just drops in, right? Like that. I know people were like wondering, because I believe there was like, oh, we can see that he connected with Lucy on Instagram or something, or following each other. Yeah, but it's not announced to the world yet, right? So you kind of like, when does it really hit? When there's an announcement and it's hit her into the broader audience of people who aren't, on the hunt every minute for those little details behind the scenes, right? Because this is where he gets the presence, and it's the buzz for those who aren't going into the minutia of the detail, right? So to me, this is the power of astrology, to see it as well, of the announcement, and it's November 18th, what's that's bringing in, but the ascendant of the announcement is right on Luke's, connected to his, like the Mercury is right on his North Node, the ascendant is close by, so you have that combination with the vertex, kind of like faded connection, his destiny, kind of another piece of work that's like, you're lined up for this, not just from, third dimension earthly experience, but there's higher contracts involved here. That's what I kind of get from this. Is like, this is a faded thing. It's happening in his Jupiter 8th house annual perfection, meaning it's been behind the scenes, but now it's starting to emerge, and more will emerge when he has his birthday and he'll move into a 9th house. Now also look at this. I love this. Look at this right here. The Mars is at 4 degrees, and the vertex of the moment of the drop is 6 degrees of Leo. Hello. That vertex tells me something is in the mix, faded, for Luke, that's happening. And this announcement it's not just that, it's like something's still coming, because when the Mars stations on that spot, what gets highlighted? I'm really curious. December 6th, guys. December 6th, 7th, right around there. December 5th, 6th. I always like a 3-day window, right? Because it's like what activates? Does the moving ascendant of that day activate it? Does the moon on that day activate it? You know, because the moon moves 13 degrees a day. So I don't know exactly where the moon is on the day. We'll have to look forward on that, but that's a very important day, December 6th. And then, of course, the ascendant and the Mercury being in his fifth house of creativity. So there's a lot of fire energy, if you can see that here. You know, that's a lot of fire energy and how that is for him. And he's working internationally. Very interesting because I really think that Italy is super powerful for Luke and will continue to be super powerful for him. A lot goes on for Luke when he's in Italy. And I cannot help but think about the Colin storyline again, about how he goes and where he goes in those travels in the storyline, and how there's kind of like this interesting mix of him mirroring a bit in his own life the Colin storyline. That's so exciting. What else? I so enjoy this. I hope you guys are enjoying this too. Psyche, of course, is still on his sun. I'm still adding to my kind of my base of knowledge around Psyche as I look at the astrology from what I've been doing since the promo tour stuff that I've been doing. But this is super, and then the Jupiter on the South Node at that announcement. So to me, this highlights that the Jupiter is bringing out something from his past work, like, but also like it's almost like this huge shift of the fandom in as well, but his friends also, there's some kind of tie to something in the past. And I kind of wonder, like, okay, the storyline of White Mars, the people he's connected to on the White Mars project have something in the mix that Luke has in his fated path, destined path, and also leads to other projects because of the Jupiter and Mercury combinations in that in this moment of this announcement. I hope that makes sense. Yes, I have Lucy Hale's chart. That's next. And so that's really, really, really interesting, guys. Yeah. Oh, here's another one. See this Chiron? This Chiron is at 19 degrees of Aries. That is the same degree as the huge solar eclipse in April 8th. And so because that's there, it makes me think about that being a sensitive degree in the chart for Luke as it relates to this announcement, and that there can be a difficult thing around, because Chiron in Aries is the right to exist as you are, and but his own Chiron is in his first house. So in this film, and what will come out later, so this is kind of like first announcement. It gives me like a quick snapshot of first impressions of this film, because I don't have dates of release or anything. This is the first impression of the film, like this. So the moon, Cancer, very important, like a protector, sensitive. These kinds of things are a part of the film. Being isolated, 12th house for Luke. But Mars and Leo, activated, like a bravado, visible in the spotlight. Da da da. But then what's the wounded thing happening in the Chiron in the 9th house, him being in a foreign land? What's going on there with this Mars? You see? Who does, like, I know in the film, the two, Sammy, which is Lucy Hale, and Leo, his name in the film of White Mars is Leo. Hello. Come on, Leo. Oh, anyway. And to me, that pulls back into his sun being in Aquarius, which is like, and then him, kind of like a reflection of him. You see, there were so many things when I saw that, and I started digging into what's this film about. I was just like, oh my gosh. But they are fending off some malevolent, did I say that right? Entity. So acting as a protector, protecting a female, Sammy, whatever, their crew. So it's not just, you know what I'm saying? So he's playing out the hero archetype in the show, in the movie again. Oh my God. But this time it's a psychological thriller. And didn't we talk about that before? So amazing. So amazing. All right, so much going on here, and I'm sure I'll dig more into this one as more information comes out. And this film has a lot of technology, so those people he's partnering with by contract are a part of that Aquarian of his 7th house by contractual agreement. Yes, so the studio contractual agreement he has, that's that. Yeah, and at this time, Saturn is in Pisces. Neptune is in Pisces, but they're clicking over into Aries. And so it's a whole nother perspective that we're going to see and that he sees as well. So when Luke goes through the process of creating this character, it's like a whole nother paradigm shift for him. Thrilling. And it lifts another whole kind of perspective of the power of his acting skills and how he will be seen in the public around his professional life. And that will be the Venus paradigm shift. Huge, huge stage when he comes out with this kind of new film. Now, hopefully, I've read some reviews of the book. And the book, the very, very first book, did not get 100% like 5 stars kind of stuff. You know, it had a mixed bag. But then it was rewritten or something, and it was re-released. So it was 99, November of 99, and then April 11th of 2000, and then it's being rewritten. See, when they rewrite with the energy as it is now, it changes the paradigm. And so when that rewrite happens, and when that's been happening, because they're acting it out right now, right? So that writing was happening this summer, right? To have that script. So that script has all those elements of the summer. So it's interesting to see how that's going to land. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this rewrite actually influences this being a really awesome film, right? And so we'll see. I mean, I'm not like massively into psychological thrillers, but I will like, watch it and go like this if I have to. Depends on what that malevolent entity is for them on that film. So anyway, let's go into Lucy. So we're going to take a peek at Lucy, right? All right. So here's Lucy. This is her co-lead. She was born on June 14th. Now we actually have a time for Lucy. She's 11:03 Central Daylight Time in Memphis, Tennessee. Didn't know she was American. But her ascendant, oh my Lord, look at this. She has an ascendant and the South Node in Leo. So Lucy, another time, another place, was an actress. Come back, does it again. But it's more about what she does for other. Now, remember when I said that Luke's power with Nicola is like his power with their mirroring effect, and that Luke powers up Nicola. Lucy's chart powers up Luke. Isn't that incredible? So, well, at least in her, I would argue that yes, she's an actress. She's doing it again. She's bringing back that the star quality, but her sun is in Gemini. So, and she has Jupiter in Gemini, And that Jupiter and Gemini are so connected to Luke's South Node, friends from the past. Oh, Lord. And people are going to be connecting in on that. But it's a powerhouse of cerebral energy with them as well. And her Mars sits on his moon. Huge. But her sun being in Gemini has a this and that kind of detail. And so it's very cerebral, right? Very cerebral. However, her midheaven is also Taurus. So let's just calculate. So she was born in 89. How old is she? Oh my gosh, I need my calculations. 89. I didn't add this up. So let's say in 2025, when this all comes around. Well, let me just see here. That's 14. She's going to be, what, 34? And she'll be 34 at her birthday in June. That means she's 33 now. She's already in a ninth house annual profection, meaning Mars is very powerful. So there's this connection between her and Mars and his moon that are really significant. But what's interesting is Pluto is opposite. So it's really going to be interesting about the dynamic that happens around the emotions that come out during the acting of this particular piece of the white Mars, and about its protective, the hero protects kind of thing, because they're both trying to protect their crew, right? In the film, it's going to be fascinating. The script is, and with the dialogue of this white Mars will be really, really interesting. Her moon is in Scorpio, though. So she has an intensity to her, like, who has a Scorpio moon? Claudia has a Scorpio moon. So Scorpio moons tend to have, like, it will be interesting because Luke's moon is Cancer, right? Who gets wounded in this white Mars? Where is the wound? What happens? Because I know in other pieces of like horror film that Luke did, the Lake Placid something. Yeah, right? He's already played out some of these dark horror kind of themes in his film, the film work that he's done creatively. So it kind of makes me wonder what this is more psychological, and how I think some of the theme is also how you set yourself free psychologically. So this will be very, very, very interesting film, just played out on the detail of white Mars, but they make it as an outpost in Antarctica as microbiologists, right? There were so many pieces of symbolism within the name of the studio, the name of the characters, and the name of the outpost. I think it's Aquila, which is eagle. So anyway, I will go into that symbolism later, but I see that as soon as I start reading stuff, I was like, oh my goodness sakes. Singularity is the name of the studio. Lot going on, okay, from what's being presented in the film combinations and what's emerging on the world stage from the cosmic planetary transits as well for us collectively, and what the characters can mirror back to us that they're presenting in the dialogue. Yeah, it's pretty powerful. So that's Lucy. And she also has this combination because being born in 89, she has the Neptune and the Saturn together in her chart at 11 degrees. So that movie, I think it's coming out maybe in December of 25, but I don't know. It may take longer. It makes me wonder if that doesn't come out in early of 2026 because of all the CGI that has to take place on that film, because then that is when Saturn and Neptune are in conjunction in February of 2026, and that's a new paradigm shift. And so to me, there's a powerful combination there if that's the case, even though Lucy herself doesn't have anything at 1 degrees of Aries, but she has 1 degrees Mercury. So when that powerhouse of Neptune and Saturn are made conjunct in, there's a real power. Her moon is at the what they call the finger of God when those two planets get up. When Saturn and Neptune get into 0, 1 degrees, 2 degrees, right in there of, I kind of would say 1 degrees of Aries, her moon is like a yod. And so it has this huge amount of emotional content with it, psychological stuff. Whew. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Fascinating, right? Anything over here in the Psyche? Psyche's at 17 in her chart in Aquarius. Is that right? That means it's right on Luke's sun. Eros is at 11 Virgo. That's not standing out as anything. Cupido is in Libra. That her Cupido is right on the spot of the recent solar eclipse. Amor, Lilith, Persephone. Yeah, the biggest one is Psyche. Interesting that her Psyche is so close to his sun. That's very important. Okay, that's good for Lucy. Let's see them together so you can see them together. Well, this is Lucy's under the announcement. Let's look at that, November 18th. Again, you can see the Jupiter. She's in a Jupiter return. See that? She's got Jupiter at 19. Jupiter in Gemini. Give her in the blessing of more. Working with a group of people, 11th house, allies, friends, whatever. Also, it lights up her 5th house of creativity. So that Jupiter is activating that 5th house of creativity, adding to her friends. So I think this film will bring in additional friends, these kinds of things for Lucy. That's powerful. I also see the sun is opposite the midheaven with the Uranus at the top, activating her midheaven 25-25. Look at that. Wow. That's powerful. So this is a major role for Lucy. Major like combination to light up her chart. Okay. You guys like this so far? Fascinating. And here's Luke. I like seeing Luke's this announcement to the film. So this is how Luke's chart lights up with that film announcement for White Mars on November 18th. We have Jupiter on in transit on his south node, bringing stuff from the past. We have that north node here, and Jupiter rules all that Sagittarius. So it's kind of like bringing in that. And then 18 Sag is Mercury, which is activating the north node. So you have Jupiter and Mercury are really activating things in a big way across his nodal axis. So this is like a huge arc of his life moment, not when this announcement. And so it carries a lot with it. You got, let's see here, the north node on his Venus highlighting his career, the Uranus opposite his Pluto, and the sun highlighting the psychological thriller aspect of it. But also at the same time, did he within within 4 days he had the People magazine drop. So he's got the whole sexiness bit all happening at once in a week, sending everybody into a frenzy. And then we have a lot of fortune really close to his own Jupiter. So really fascinating to see. And so that Pluto is still, Pluto has since come into Aquarius on November 19th, like the next day. And so then that highlights his professional persona in the world. Body, emotional changes for Luke. This is a huge, 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 huge moment. Yeah, you see all that? So that's really fun to see that. And then I put Luke and Lucy chart together. Luke in the middle, Lucy on the outside. You can see, and I love that we have exact time for Lucy because it gives us her ascendant, because that ascendant being at 29 degrees, it's like the universe is like, take a look, because this is super powerful, because her ascendant is got the south node right on it, meaning her sun, which is Gemini. Lucy, I'd have to go back and study Lucy's creative works, because with her sun in Gemini, with a Jupiter in Gemini, Lucy has an incredible combination of being able to see duality through her work. And I don't know, to be honest, I don't know anything about her duality. I read briefly when I was just grabbing pictures and stuff. Pretty Lies or something? I don't know. What is that? Pretty Liars? Pretty Light? But the fact that the title was like Pretty Liars or something like that, the liars is like the shadow side of Gemini. And with the Scorpio moon is like having the best BS detector, right? Like you can detect the BS of people. You get that immediately, the vibe, when someone's false. The duality is of our experience of, especially on the cerebral, especially on the mind, Gemini, air sign. The duality of mind is understanding that when we're on Earth and we're experiencing life, we are automatically in a duality of hot, cold, light, dark, good, evil, those kinds of themes. And a Gemini is curious, but it also has this incredible, it wants the facts, because it's comparing the facts. And right now is an interesting period of time that humans have been through, of having a lot of false information, or what is that true? Like really having a hard time of getting to the truth of something, and struggling to do so, because we've had the whole Jupiter in Sagittarius square the transit of Saturn in Pisces. That transit's not visible right here because I have Lucy and Luke together here. But Saturn in Pisces with Neptune in Pisces square the Jupiter has made it. You can see the challenge of how false information presents itself, and then how the struggle of humans to figure out through the fog what's going on here, right? Like what's the truth? What's the truth of the matter? Or how people may be surprised by the illusion that will drop, or the disillusionment that's happened, right, over the few years that Saturn's been in Pisces and Neptune's been in Pisces. So much illusion, and then so much being created, and then but there's a deeper truth behind it, right? And so when Saturn and Neptune merge into ingress into Aries, those veils start dropping really fast. So interesting to see how some of this will play out. But very interesting to see that Lucy's south node and her sun tells me that her south node has friends from the past that she's going to be working with. And she's working out understanding something. And so it'll be past friends. It'll, and oftentimes the person can be younger, but it's Lucy's task to look at something more Aquarian and go more Saturn, to be, so her Saturn, which will be challenging because she has Saturn and Neptune together in Capricorn. So it wouldn't be surprising that she does so much of that work, soul work, through being an actress. But it's always about who she's playing off of and how that plays off together. So this will be really fascinating. And yes, Effie, oh gosh, I hope I say your name right, Effie. Uranus will be in Gemini next year too, July 7th, 2025. Yes, that's true. So it's going to be really interesting because Saturn, it's in my charts here, goes into Aries May 25th, I believe. Neptune goes in, I have all these dates, March 30th. So March 30th is the first kind of, but when Uranus goes into Gemini, that's like light speed. Things will just like go really fast. There'll be something that emerges technologically that just, we can't even, it's kind of almost like I envision like something about AI, because when Pluto first went into Aquarius in March of 2023, March 23rd, 2023, that whole week, there was all this stuff going on about AI, artificial intelligence. And so I feel like when those click in, because it feels like more and more stuff has emerged in AI, especially I see it on YouTube. I see so much crap, if you ask me, that's coming out and being produced by AI. It's like, bleh, why is this in? I don't even want to see this crap. I want to see real people. But some stuff is really cool, if it's done right and done well. But it's also, you shouldn't. I think this is what we as a collective humans have to figure out, is how it's going to get better and better, right? It's like, at what point, how we all operate with it, and how, because if you understand I come out of the tech industry. When artificial intelligence gains its own problem solving beyond the human interacting with, which I think it already has, it's going to be quite stunning what we see. And I don't even think we know what we see. And one of the things that astrologers do when we're like exploring themes, Uranian, Aquarius, Uranian themes around technology, all the astrologers bring in the story of Frankenstein. Shelby, who wrote that book? It's like creating the monster. So it kind of makes me wonder, what's the shadow side? I always there's always the positive, that technology can do great things, can help us maybe solve big problems that we have. But what's the monster that's also the shadow side? Because it's duality. And so it kind of makes me wonder about this film being really significant, maybe as a conversation around that, like what's in the technology that they're using in the film, and then what's presented, what plays out in that film. And at that time, Uranus will be in Gemini, but Uranus will also have a cycle of going from Gemini back into Taurus and then back in. And once it clicks in for the 7 years that it will be in Gemini, that to me is when it really takes off. Like, you kind of have the toe is dipped in, something's emerged, and then, you struggle with it when the retrograde happens, when it goes back into the other sign and then back out. And that to me makes me wonder about currency, monies, and those kind of banking and that kind of stuff, because of the significance of Uranus in Taurus that has presented that to us. Thank you, Mary Shelley. Thank you, Beth. Yeah, so there's so much that we collective as human, and I hope in the astrology, it's like, yeah, we're having fun with Luke Newton and Nicola and those people that they're going to participate, but it's just it's like a mirror. It's like reflecting and giving us bits and pieces to like reflect on for ourselves. And so that's really important. I think this Mars, this white Mars, so interesting. And this whole retrograde cycle with Mars is so interesting. So Lucy and Luke will be, what a dynamic. It's going to be really interesting. I think psychologically it's going to be fascinating, and I can't wait to kind of dive into it. I'm a little scared of like psychological horror movies, because I have the kind of mind that I have images come to me anyway as part of my intuition. So I think in images a lot. So I'm very careful of what I feed my mind because because I can end up with a horror film that just keeps playing. And so I'm very careful about. So I might have somebody else watch the film for me and then kind of remark about what I need to watch out for, like what scene, and then close my eyes for certain scenes or whatnot, because I have to be very careful with the images. I don't know about the rest of you, but that's my mind. What else? I just think the Lucy and Luke will be an interesting dynamic. What another thing that I saw when I was going searching for another image for Lucy. I saw like an article or a post on the commentary that people put on the side about people already connecting Luke with Lucy as a significant other, like romantic, like they're already shipping him with her. And I was like, oh Lord, God, it's going to go off the rails, and it's really going to go off the rails because of the combination. And it doesn't mean that he chooses that. You know what I mean? It's just I can see it in the hive mind of how it hits his chart. So I really think that will be something he has to be so mindful of. But he does, the dynamic of them being in a film together will be extraordinary in the themes of the film itself that have been presented. So I can't wait to see what that is. I'm careful with the hive mind collective that will try to ship him with every single co-star he has, because I just, as an astrologer, I just want to be careful and cautious of putting too much on that. Even though I was picked up with him, his co-lead with Nicola, but to me, there's something very significant about them and the role that they played so far, and the Psyche and Eros. Okay, so I want to be respectful as best I can, in that consideration. So what do you guys think so far that you're seeing, based on these combinations, and what kind of stands out for you? Just Lucy's Mars on his moon kind of makes me wonder about like that the position of his moon being true to that 27, 28, 29 degrees of Cancer. So as you see, just these combinations with other people make me kind of wonder about what is his rising sign, exact, right? So it kind of highlights that. I don't know if it makes a bit of detail, but Lucy's 1 degree of Gemini activates Antonia's Jupiter. So I don't know. I don't follow all the noise on the socials. So I don't know if this announcement activated Miss Antonia. Maybe it did, because it's also on his South Node, and I remember that being pretty significant as a South Node lesson for him. And look at Lucy's North Node sits on, and did not pull, I think it's Persephone. Persephone is like the story of Persephone going into the underworld. And when you go into the underworld, it's about learning about the shadow, the human shadow, and the process of integrating the shadow in that whole bit from a psychological standpoint. But having Persephone at 29 degrees of Aquarius is kind of interesting, that it's a part of this psychological thriller co-lead connection, right? That's very interesting combination at 29 degrees. So I kind of wonder about the psychological bits that Luke Newton has learned and come to know by being famous and having the hive mind behave the way it's behaved, and his connection to significant other people. This one will be similar, if not have even more noise around shadow material. So you think about Luke Newton is very powerful in what it activates the feminine shadow a lot. And it exists across the fandom, yeah. It's fascinating. Just from an astrology standpoint, it's like, yeah, that's definitely activated, But Lucy also will show even more divide of duality of it all. Does that make sense? It's going to go off the rails, people, even more so. Because until people just observe themselves, how they engage into the duality of it all, and pull back. You have to pull back and look at it as love and fear. Are you operating in love? Or are you operating in fear? It all comes down to love, because all of it is love. But while we're in duality, we're appearing as love and fear. But outside of time, love. You understand? I hope. Hope. We're playing, it's like we're playing a game. Being human, being incarnate between love and fear, love and hate. But love, beyond this realm, love. Interesting, huh? Yeah, absolutely, Effie. It's triggering and healing, because oftentimes people are triggered and have a catalyst moment, and then it can be healing. But they have to it's like the awakener, and it definitely we're in that moment collectively. Like, these outer planet transits, Pluto in Aquarius. It's like, what are you creating, even with technology, right? Pluto is like transforming that massively, but it's also massively changing our understanding of how we actually are connected, not just in YouTube land and social media, because we are also connected in just the mind, because it is mind. Life is mind, incarnate in third dimension. And we're coming down to if you look at life on earth and our soul's invitation and opportunity to be in a body, and the experience to forget the all-knowing, to come in and have experiences being forgetful of who we really are, how powerful that experience can be, and then what's being laid on the time-space continuum as we move, moment to moment, because all the power's in the now. It's kind of bringing all the things I've ever learned in the mystical into these moments. And astrology just gives me this is two-dimensional flat, perspective on the charts, but it's more multi-dimensional, right? In terms of time and space and all the things that I bring into the conversation, right? Because I have also talked to you about the progressed moon or the progressed sun. That's another perspective of time, right? Because it's always playing from this realm from a perspective of time. And I kind of can take you outside of time into another consideration of time through the astrology conversation, right? Similar, right? Because outside of this realm, Earth, time doesn't exist like that. It's all now. And it's really hard to conceptualize that because we think so linearly. We think in a linear fashion. But the only way that people can read astrology into the future archetypally is understanding the archetypal symbolism that's offered to us, that was given to us as signs and omens to read, to help us, to guide us. So it's a very, very interesting thing. I can go off on a tangent on that, but we'll keep going because we have so much stuff. So I think that was Lucy and Luke on their charts together. This was the announcement. I think what I wanted to point out, I think in this one this was the 8:36 a.m. Oh, I put on this one, the theme of the book is different. They've definitely rewritten it, because in the theme of the movie, they put it as an isolated Antarctic facility instead of being on Mars itself. And I think there's something really important to that. I'll share that later, because we can go off on a tangent on that. It gets into the psychological part, and that's the Scorpio. But I just love that the rising sign of the announcement is in Sagittarius, and that pulls in the Jupiter of other. So it's this identity, the self, it's self and other, and that kind of understanding of the psychology of self and other, right? And the duality. So very, very interesting. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I can go on that. I'm going to not spend too much time on that because we have more charts. We still have Nicola. Yeah, Norma, good luck to him. He is working his way up with people like Lucy Hale. He should do this production. Yeah, I think he will do a good job. Hopefully higher level of work will come from, yeah, I absolutely think so. He'll have, definitely the way his astrology is also going, he has this trajectory towards bigger and bigger. So yeah, I mean, really, when Luke is 33, he'll have like so much going on for his career. It'll seem like he's everywhere in that year. Norma, Love and War. Is the movie based on? Oh, that's the movie. The other movie on the Irish woman story. Oh, that's for Nicola. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I got to keep my eye on for Love and War. What an interesting title of a movie, right? Love and War. A lot going on there. And the fact that it's an Irish woman's story, so it's kind of like Nicola's Moon, Homeland, Irish coming out in that. Ooh, interesting. Louise O'Meara is the woman she will play. Oh, I gotta write that down. Thank you. You guys are so informative. O'Meara. I'll have to look that up. True story, based on a true story, which means it'll be really fascinating, right? Okay, and it also carries forward her social activism that she does, the very Aquarian. Okay, so what else? This was on the White Mars, so we talked about that. This was on the announcement, and I put the book, but this was the second publishing of the book in 2000. So we could spend some time here, but what I found fascinating is some of the connections to Mercury and Neptune. So that to me is like it being rewritten. Like there's the rewrite, right, of the initial book versus what will appear in the film. And the film is kind of like a Pisces stuff. Psychological stuff. The sensitive, like the moon. This is kind of interesting. Oh, I love this. This is what also is the Pluto being at 29 degrees Capricorn when it was announced, and it's the very last day of Pluto in Aquarius, Pluto in Capricorn, excuse me, before it goes into Aquarius. That the book, the second release of that book, White Mars, had 29 Capricorn South node. It's almost like it's getting a rebirth, and the Saturn themes, Capricorn themes about capitalism, our systems, how they're structured, and the breakdown of that kind of stuff, because we have Saturn in Pisces, and also the Saturn of when the book that published, when it was published again the second time, because it was first published November 25th, hardly got any traction, of 1999. He published it again April 11th, 2000, got it, and that's where most of the books are coming from. And to have those combinations, the Uranus at 20 degrees of Aquarius, it's so close to Luke's sun and Saturn, excuse me, Luke's Saturn. So he brings it to life. Oh my God, it's so good, right? That Uranus is so like, wow, that's amazing. I mean, this is going back in time. Like, can you see like the overlay of like when the story was created, what inspired the author to write this thing about Mars? But then it gets kind of like what Shonda does for Bridgerton from Julia Quinn's book. She rewrites it, but makes it her own and brings that content story forward in a new form. And it kind of speaks to something that's relevant and important for today, for what we're experiencing as humans today. So this is amazing, right? I mean, it's amazing to kind of see how these things get rebirthed and reborn, how they come back around again. Still have, where the author was the initiate, but what gave it to the author? Where was the inspiration from, right? What his soul, that soul of that author. Just stunning. So that's what I saw in that one. And looky, there's a lot going on with that North Node and Moon in Cancer from the original book. It's like finding the place of security, the emotionally secure soul. It knows it's safe. No question. Wow, right? And it's amazing. I just think that's so funny. Who's ready for some Nicola detail? How y'all doing? Got a lot going on. We are at 2 hours and 26 minutes. Whew. I don't know how many. We got 61 on, or ish. So, okay. Let's jump into Nicola, because I've done a lot on Luke, right? You know, everybody like waits for Nicola. She's such a queen. Look at her. Women of the Year Award, Harper's Bazaar. So let's jump in and see what the astrology has been for Nicola, because she has been busy. She's been visible. What a queen she is. Yeah. I love seeing how she's kind of bringing in the awards and accolades for her accomplishments to date, right? So here we have Nicola recently at the Tasaki 70. And what I loved about this is that Nicola has Jupiter in Pisces. And with Saturn in Pisces, I can't help but think of pearls. It's like almost a thing of the sea that with time, you create the pearl. And so I see this combination. It's just like stunning. And here she is, you know, with Yaren present at that event, which I totally love. So she's teaming up with her. And I mean, when she looks amazing. Doesn't she look amazing? She looks amazing. And I just love it because it's like this present that was. Now I made the timing. Now I put it at 8 p.m. London time, but that whole event was like spanned through like 10 a.m., noon, like early in the morning till late at night. So I don't know what all the activities that they had going on. And London was their final stop on that promo tour for the Tasaki 70 anniversary. So to me, that sun was first in Scorpio and then moved in. I just kind of brought it to 8 o'clock because I don't know. Maybe she was there in the evening. I have no idea. But it could be that it's, both, Scorpio and Sagittarius sun, right? Like in terms of how that was experienced for her. Okay. But it's definitely highlighting her Venus, like beauty, and goes around the globe. I mean, this is an event that was around the globe. London just happened to be the final promo stop for that particular event. And what else? There's a symbolism around the pearl too. It's really a powerful symbol in itself, from the metaphysical sense, because it's kind of also wisdom of and time bearing and all of that, and the beauty of that. So there's kind of symbolism, and it's almost like it's like a crescendo of music, and the pearl is coming at the end of her year that she has a second house annual profection where Jupiter is actually located in her chart in Pisces, and it's manifesting in this moment when Jupiter is highlighted because all the Sagittarius energy, even though Jupiter is opposite with the Mercury in Sagittarius, Jupiter and Mercury are activating each other and are communicating the signs across like that. So it's actually making them less, they don't bear the difficulty as otherwise being in the opposite domain of their power, if that makes any sense. So it actually highlights, that kind of, in a way it manifests in things in, that can be very positive in its nature because of them being in each other's signs. And it's a Jupiter year for her. It highlights her creativity somewhat because of it's just her professional persona being highlighted again next to her star for the next season. So it's kind of something for the future, right? So it kind of has all these things. And around jewelry, Nicola has, because of the Libra, has a lot going on with aesthetics. She likes the fashion. She loves the fashion. So she leans into that a lot and will continue to get picked up as a sponsor for brands because of that in her chart. But it's so fitting for the pearl and Tasaki. I hope I say that name right. But I just thought, wow, a lot going on there in that event. Make sense? Who is based in Cyprus? Who's based in Cyprus? Norma. I'm not sure who you're speaking of. The Irish woman? Louise? If Louise O'Meara, I thought she was from Ireland. Is she based now in Cyprus? If she is, there's a whole nother thing with that. That symbolism of Cyprus just keeps coming, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. Wow, so many things. Okay. Next, I don't know, is there anything else on the Tasaki? That was November 21st. That was just a couple of days ago, 2 days ago. So pretty powerful. Oh, also, I want to point out that, see, the midheaven is right on her Mars. So it's highlighting her and what she's communicating, kind of like communicating for brand, right? So just a lot of fire energy, her presence. What else we got? I think that's all I went on that one. This was the actual Harper's Bazaar moment, November 5th. This is just like, I took it at 3 p.m., a snapshot for 3 p.m., because I tried to find on any photo a timestamp, very hard to find sometimes. But one of them online I saw was like 2:48 p.m. for a picture of, what's her name and her daughter? Harper Beckham and her mother. Victoria Beckham. There was a photo that was like time stamped around 2:48 p.m. So I kind of put it around 3. That might be them entering into the event. So maybe at 3 p.m. is like the time of the event. So I just kind of put it at that, but it's not like a hardcore time, but it's tried to get as close as I can. And what's interesting about that is that the moon was in Sagittarius, which makes a lot of sense because it's the empowerment of women. And so as soon as the moon goes into Capricorn, it gets more serious, and it's not as strong because it's a little bit more on the, because moon in Cancer is in its domain. So moon in Capricorn is, from a traditional standpoint, not in its strength. It's more of a struggle. So to me, the whole event would be surrounded around the moon in Sagittarius, which would then absolutely highlight Nicola and highlight Nicola's part of her chart with all the Sagittarius, right? So her participation in that. So not unreasonable to see all those things. And that's what I got on that. That's just for the chart. And with the rising sign, if it was in Aries, that's kind of like the paradigm, kind of like, I kind of feel like the feminine continues to rise, but it's met with resistance from the patriarchy. So it's this real high tension right now. As Neptune and Saturn go into Aries, it's almost like another paradigm shift for women, pushing still more fire into their own rising. So this is really an interesting period of time. And so that movie that Nicola is going to do, Stolen, is maybe it's not Love and War, but Stolen may be the title. I don't know. That will be interesting to see how she enacts something of the feminine rage around what it means to be a woman, a mother in the patriarchy, because it's in her chart in such a dynamic way. So this movie that she's going to be enacting will be so powerful because of how many women are following her how many it will empower. And I wonder what it does in the archetypal energy. It gives it expression, but at the same time, there's met with resistance by the patriarchy because it's going through, it has to balance. It has to balance as we move forward collectively as humanity in the Pluto and Aquarius era, right? So this is going to be interesting. She's like a forerunner in it. Like she's like this really interesting symbolic woman in all of this rise of power and empowerment. Look, see how powerful her symbolism is in this era, in this moment. So I think that she will probably be so extraordinary. She get more awards from that movie coming out, if not Oscar. I mean, how many of you have been imagining Nicola winning an Oscar? And especially for that coming, how many? I want to know. Give me some signs that you have not thought of that. Like, I want to know what you guys are thinking. Really. I think if that movie is filmed in 25 and really enacts, gives a lot of energy towards her Mars energy, Aries, and so dealing with the conflict and really engaged, really cutting, really doing it, trying her Venus and all that fire energy she has. Then in the following year would then be in the Bridgerton buzz coming in 2026, Gemini, Uranus, Gemini settling in 2026, Saturn, Neptune, absolutely synodic cycle coming February 2026. If then when she is 39, 39, that she wouldn't be poised for the Oscar. The bottom of her chart is like, so that'd be so that would be Venus. Yeah, she would be so aligned for that. Huge, because her Jupiter is the ruler of the Sagittarius, and the Venus is at the top of her chart. And yeah, guys. Oh my gosh! Would you all just be dancing? Just to see her nominated, first of all, would be fantastic. I mean, she hasn't even probably stepped into that role and done anything with that yet. But can you see it? Can you see it archetypally with me? Like how powerful it's going to be? It's going to be so powerful. Oh, so exciting. Anyway, so that's the Harper's event. And that's, she's just adding on to her little notch of accolades. And we're here for it, right? Because of what she symbolically represents on so many things. She is a human too, and has things that are very private, and I want to respect that too. But I get so excited for her and what she does professionally. It's just, her chart is so on my chart in so many ways that, her Uranus sits on my sun, for goodness sake. So it's not surprising that I'm not displaying her, the power of her astrology. And her Mercury is same as my Mercury. We have a lot of things close in our charts. Anyway, onward. Okay, so here's the moment of the kind of putting the event with Nicola and highlighting, see all of that Sag energy, but also, the sun in Scorpio highlighting the career as well, the 10th house. Jupiter is important because it brings out it's the year of Jupiter for her, Lord of the Year. So it's highlighting her, the work that she's done, and she's wearing her ceasefire pin. So that's Jupiter because of the Sag in that part of her chart. So it's just amazing how Nicola embodies each moment. You know what else I kind of noticed in a lot of she likes to wear the black professionally as some of these events. I saw different outfits wearing the black. It's kind of interesting because that's a color for Saturn. So that she's highlighting her work, her professionalism, that kind of thing with the black, even though when it's elegant, right? So it's kind of interesting. Though at the Emmys, she had that glorious, sparkly, amazing gown. That was just a whole different spin. That was amazing. That was like a mirror ball just on the brain. It was amazing. And that to me was very a unique moment, because someone was like, that was almost like the Jupiter more being expressed, but then she also got eclipsed at the Emmys by that person walking in front of her, which is kind of interesting, related to that moment in her chart as well that I spoke about in another, I don't know what video it was, but I did speak about it. Anyway, so that's pretty fascinating. And we also see the ascendant at the, if it was 3 o'clock start time, that right around that time, it's highlighting her Mars. So this moment of being made the Woman of the Year kind of award, being acknowledged for all her work and her social activism, it's kind of like they're recognizing her on all these facets of herself. And the ascendant is right there. The North Node is right there. It's kind of emphasizing her empowered voice and action that she takes. You see that in this chart? Look at that right there. That's amazing. Yeah. Hi, Haley. The lady that the story is based off of just recently got married in 2024 and now lives in Cyprus. Okay, you guys, I'm going to have to do a whole nother video on Cyprus, because both Nicola is connected to Cyprus as Luke is connected to Cyprus. But you guys got to understand the importance of Cyprus from, like, it's almost like a point of origin for humanity. There's so much going on there. So the fact that she's picking up, acting someone's part on someone who lives in Cyprus now is symbolically interesting. Yeah, I just stunning. How is Luke connected to Cyprus? Well, that's where Antonia's family is from Cyprus. Luke also, well, let's go back to Colin. Colin goes to Cyprus, y'all. Remember in the storyline? It's the mirror. It's like when we watch these guys, and remember we just got so caught up in that storyline, but it's like when I was watching that story, it's like, wait a minute, there's so much going on here. It's not just Colin and Penelope. It is so much more. It's like a mirror and 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 a mirror. It's a reflective. And that's why when Luke and Nicola come together, even with Antony in the storyline, okay, I haven't done my Aphrodite story, my video yet, because I have to work all the details, because I feel like I'm still gathering information on that as it pertains to Psyche and the whole storyline that they overlaid and made as part of the Bridgerton that goes, and Nicola's connection to the swans, Aphrodite swans. It's it's the transformation for humans, for humankind, for mankind. They're just reflections. Just like your astrology is just a reflection. And I know it's like, it hits for me, maybe because of all the things I've gathered up to this point of perspective. So I know I may be communicating that, but it is so, it's like gobsmack. Wow. Oh my God. It's like walking through a magic sphere, and oh, boom, 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 boom. All the things that come in and synchronicity that comes in, and oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, all the things. It's really hard to articulate it sometimes, but sometimes when it lands for me, it's just like, whoa, giddy up. We are in the zone of transformation that is so massive for us. Now, there is duality, but when your soul goes through moments of like waking up to the things within, you begin to understand your power. You as a creator. And these two are doing it. They are just showing us that. You see? It's so exciting. I'm sorry, I'm yelling. It's so exciting. So exciting. It's just like, I can't. I mean, I've been through the dark night of the soul myself. I know the catalyst. stuff can hurt. a lot. However, I have moments, and you will have moments where it's like, oh my God, it all lines up. I get it. You feel the love. You feel that you are there and you are operating and you understand, and that your physical being gets to, you are living through a period of human history unlike any other, except there are what I call tones from the past. Absolutely. Like the United States stuff is like, what a ball of fire that shit is. Okay, excuse my language. But it's like we are just going through a period of time where we have to transform to go forward, because if you think back in history, we have we were, as a collective, I can only speak from the United States. I mean, Brazil has its own, France has its own. You know, the world at that period of time in 1770s, and that breaking open, similar now that Pluto is in Aquarius, it is like we are doing it for ourselves. People will rise up. People will, like, no, you know, they go back for the power. And even if we have the patriarchy in its like experience, but it's what did the people do collectively? The more and more they understand their own power into the equation, what do they bring to the equation for love? And that's what's going to be interesting. It's like, yes, we can all swim in the fear, me included, you know. uh there's stuff that happens and it's like, ah, gosh, you know, but it's like, okay, drop it. Let me where can I go with this, right? Like this love, 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 love. That's when all of that energy of Aphrodite and the swans and all of that was hitting me so much in like June, when that came in, and like May and June. But it was like, it just kept coming, and I was like, what is going on here? And so that Uranus Jupiter in Taurus, that synodic cycle was just like, like flowers and the beauty of Earth, Gaia. And then at the same time, we have the heavens giving us all this transformation into Aquarius, which is like the sky. And it's like Gaia and sky, Uranus coming together. It's just like, whoa. Oh my gosh. Anyway, the symbolism comes through. So, you know, we could have like a little group together and get together and talk about these things, maybe in more of a Zoom meeting fashion. It's really hard to articulate it this way, but it's kind of like to be able to uncover that and discover that by going in there and focusing. But we have things that we are responsible for in terms of how we operate. And Nicola is an interesting example for us in terms of how do you carry yourself in your professional life and how you are engaged with public, but then how are you need to take care of yourself. You need to take some time in isolation to take care of yourself, your soul, your spirit, your mind. And what you do there matters. How you might write in your journal, how you take care of yourself, what you feed yourself, in both by nutrition, but also in your mind. You know, so this is why I get so lit up like a Christmas tree about this stuff. It just kind of, these two, Nicola and Luke, to me just are like these interesting, really interesting people about their public personas, their careers, what they are showing in a mirror like way to us, and that gets me excited. I know that sometimes it can send some of the fandom into a little bit of a, when other things come in as what they think is disruptors, but that's all relative, like, I guess. So I hope that makes sense. Hi, Anne. Yes, I hope for them to be together. I see it as not right now, but I hope for Lucola in the future. Yes. But as long as they continue to use creativity, they will shine. Yes, absolutely. Yes. So, Haley, you mentioned another mirror possibility, I think, is that you said, I don't think Luke and Nick talked much this summer, like pollen and the letters, pollen and the letters. And that's just my theory. Yeah, isn't that's interesting. Like in season 3, when she's like, good night, Mr. Bridgerton. And she cut him off. She didn't write him any letters. That boy was feeling isolated, feeling very lonely. But the thing is think about that and now step back from that. If that was reflected in real life, okay. But it's kind of like, but even in the storyline, it can give us like, for him to come to understand more about her, the two parts of herself, which he would come to understand by the end of that season, right? The Lady Whistledown side. And so it's the Gemini concept, the merging of the duality. She's always been the same single voice. And so collective can also learn about themselves in the mirror of that piece of work about their own duality. And if there are two parts of themselves, the love part, the fear part, love and hate, love and fear, whatever, and bring them, there's always just the one, of the soul. We are often operate from the illusion of the fear, the illusion of the hate. We do not realize the power of the love of our foundation, of our light body, of us, who we are as souls, ultimately. Isn't that beautiful? So, yes, and that's why I think about Luke Newton's chart that I had talked about early on in other videos about his Venus goes retrograde in his progress chart 4 years. 4 years is really important because it's almost like this moment for him, and his understanding him as masculine archetype, and and what he's doing with the feminine. What's going on there? New paradigm shift. So to me, I kind of like whatever's happening, I'm learning from these two for the next 4 years, but I can't see it all but I'm like, oh, archetypally, that's very interesting. That moment, these moments, because they're bringing in something and they are just symbolic. So when we're focusing something, it just helps us see the whole thing. Yeah. Okay. I get too excited and hopefully I articulate. Yeah. Divine time. Yes, Camilla. Divine timing is so important. But here's another thing. We're in 2024, right? It's November. Well, I'm doing this November 23rd, 2024. So 4 years from now, it'll be 2028. And Luke is 31. It'll be 35 when that really is happening. But truly, from astrology standpoint, I know that when someone turns 36, it's a major, major year. Major. Because that will highlight his sun when he turns 36. So a lot of the activity that paradigm shift will be behind the scenes in his 12th house. Something may transpire around family, mother, moon, that age of 35, because that's Cancer of his 12th house. So behind the scenes. So whatever project he may have in the future. But to me, emotionally, it's also his hero archetype in context here. But when he turns 36 is now the sun. Now we see it. We see who is on the 7th house for him. We see how he reflects back maybe things about his father. His father could be part of that storyline when he's 36. You see, so there's so much, and it's also who carries that role of significant co-lead in the year he's 36, and what then he translates, and what's going on with that whole hive mind, and then what's reflected out through people. And the hive mind connected to Luke Newton and Nicola is huge. I mean, in terms of who's following them as stars, because I mean, just observing Nicola's presence on the Emmys is clue to that, because the whole feed was just Nicola during the Emmys. I mean, remember that? I mean, I was just like, geez. Like, it was amazing. But anyway, that's really awesome. Let's see here. What else? So hopefully, through my excitement, you can see all these things as well. I have more stuff here with Nicola. I have her Rolling Stone UK awards announcement. November is coming on November 28th, where that's 5 days away, right? It's scheduled for 7 p.m.ish, maybe. It might be earlier in the day, but I can't remember if I got the 7 p.m. from an actual time of the awards ceremony. So that might be the case. So if you guys are tuning in around that event, let's kind of see like when is she first, like when's the timing when she's first on the red carpet for that event? When is she then, what might the announcement and when is the announcement? London time, that is coming up. That's just a few days away. You guys can kind of track it, see it. So this is like really powerful. Camilla, you see, do I see kids in the future, babies in the future? Well, that is a choice. This is a free will thing. Nicola may be like a millennial and waver on that choice, even though she likes babies. I don't know. That's a really hard one because she's an Aquarian rising, but she does have Mercury in the 12th house, and Mercury is the ruler of her 5th house of children. If she is going to get pregnant, it would be 2 years from now. Let's see here. No, she's going to be 30. Let me think. I think I mentioned this before, but people ask me that question a lot because she's in Jupiter now, which is expansive, but then she's going into 3rd house Mars. Don't think it would be that. But if she makes a free will choice to create baby, she could do it at the end of being 38. And then when she's 39, more likely. Makes sense? Because the year that she's 39, she'll be in her 5th house annual perfection. No, wait. 4th house annual perfection. That'll be Venus. No, be 40. Get pregnant when she's 39, 40 maybe. If she makes the choice, y'all. It's not guaranteed. She might have to work out the trauma of the baby scenario first because what she is maybe with this film, she has past life Chiron wound around children, and having that's why that's part of her storyline of taking this movie. She gets to work out something from the past, y'all. She does it in the form of art, but then if she works out that in a big way and emotionally moves through that material, you see how important it is. Like you've got to work through the emotional wound so it doesn't sting anymore, and then you can have a breakthrough, and then you move forward. I hope that makes sense. Sometimes we create part of our lives from the unconscious, and we're just doing part of the I learned from my parents I'm going to operate this certain way. But she's an Aquarian. She has so much Aquarian energy, being Aquarius, Aquarius rising sign with the Saturn in Sagittarius and Uranus in Sagittarius. She's going to do things differently. And maybe the difference is that choice. I don't know. And sometimes millennials like, I'm not having children, so I'm doing this instead. She could make that choice. I don't know. See, it's really, really. But if she were, this would be the window. Like, so 38, 39. So it'd be 40 and 41. Those. And when Uranus goes into Gemini, it goes into her 5th house. So yeah, that could be the shocker. So she could have the breakthrough and decide, oop, I am gonna, out of the blue. And there it is. You know what I mean? Because Uranus going through her 5th house would then activate the potentials for children. Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense, guys? So it'd be very tied to her midlife, kind of the Uranus opposition experience, which can be motherhood. You change your life so dynamically when you have a child. I know that one. Maybe, Sandra, maybe adopting. Could be. I guess it depends how she is privately. If she does it by herself, does it with a partner, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of layers in there. I know some actresses have just adopted on their own, outside of having fully viewable committed partnerships, if that makes any sense as well. Like Sandra Bullock did. Um, Meg Ryan, I think, did. And if you guys remember those actresses, yeah, possibility. Yes, I think Luke absolutely wants a family. Sandra, that's in his chart. Yes. Yeah, it's just really part of his makeup, but it also helps. But if you look at Luke, let's talk about Luke. Luke's will be okay. So his fifth house is Sagittarius, so it's the Jupiter. His Jupiter is in Libra. um, and we see it through his sister, how he family related themes, right? But another part is fifth house would be so hold on, I'm counting like houses here. So right now he's in an eighth house, have perfection. Ninth house is Aries. 10th house is Taurus with Venus, and then we have 11th house is Mercury. I would think it's more that one. So 4 years out. You see how the 4 years comes in for Luke again? So how old is, I mean, you guys are like thinking if it's Nicola. 39, 40, 41 for 2. Yeah, so see, like maybe. I don't know. It depends on how how it all lands. I don't know. I haven't like, because there's too many other elements going on with the outer planets for me to say that's exactly what that is. Yeah, I kind of like, when does that turn on for the person in their life based on a choice? Because it's choice points and your free will is making decisions and you have to choose to make a family or not, right? And the woman how they make it versus how a man makes it are two different things. So because of the time, if you're actually physically going to have the child versus an adoption, right? But it's just, if there's a lot of things that go into that equation. But anyway, on the Rolling Stone UK Awards, that's coming up. So on November 28th, if you guys are tuning in, kind of see when does she hit the red carpet. If you got that, if it's on a live feed, get the time when she actually shows up. It's like a moment of showing up. That's really good. And also, if she wins something, when is that actual announcement made? Get the time. Those are two times that kind of like can play into figuring out her ascendant. Okay, so very, very possible that she's like up there, because the Jupiter being so prominent this year and how many accolades she's already kind of acquired, right? And this one's for Big Mood, and Big Mood is about mental wellness, kind of, and it's her other work. So her other work getting also accolades, not just Bridgerton. So it's kind of interesting to see that it's both, because there was such a duality of two pieces of work that she was really being pushed forward for this kind of, to be in this swing of accolades and awards and things, right? But at that award ceremony, look at the moon. The moon is right over her Pluto. So, and it's always about her natal moon is very powerful. So it's more like it's like activating her power. Like that moon in transit is more like it's activating her power. So, wow, right? Extraordinary. Um, and the Venus in Capricorn right on her sun within 2 degrees, super powerful. And then Jupiter opposite her Saturn, but Jupiter is the ruler of the Saturn, and Mercury is up there activating a lot of stuff. You know, the midheaven on her Jupiter, also powerful, right? So all of these kind of hints at potential of being the winner. I just don't know about how this Mars juices up her in competition, right? Like, I'm not sure about that. That's like active, and it does throw a fire trine to her own Mars, the North Node in transit, and her Venus, which can bring that to her. But I wonder. So that's really powerful, right? What else I got? This is more on. I think that was my last one for Nicola before Saturn, Neptune. But do you guys want to see Neptune ingress and all that stuff? Neptune ingress, Saturn ingress into Aries and Pisces, or do you want me to jump to Golden Globes? Because we're already at 3:00, guys. Jeez. You want Golden Globes instead? Do a little predictive work. Let's see. Golden Globes. I can do the whole Saturn, Neptune stuff on another one, I guess, because it's more planetary, and I don't have those mapped into Nicola or Luke's chart per se. So let's look at Golden Globes. Let's have the fun stuff. Okay. Okay, so here's Nicola on the announcement. So you guys gave me some announcement details. So December 9th is the announcement for the Golden Globe nominations. And a lot of names have been going in. So I got 1 p.m. in London time. Maybe that's when the announcements come out for that. Even though Golden Globes is kind of out of LA, so I think I transposed the time from the LA time to the London time, because that's when it would hit the globe, you know what I mean? So let's take a look. The ascendant of that moment has 8 degrees of Aries, yeah. So that's 8 degrees is, what is 8 degrees? Oh, you know what? I did it again. Golly. Hold on one second. I just realized something. I think I need to get rid of bad charts in my stuff. I need to do this. 1 second, please. I have to redo that chart. I just noticed something. Telling you, with Mercury in Sagittarius and Jupiter in Gemini, I have to rework stuff sometimes. So fun. Let's see here. Hold on a second. Nicola, that one, and the Golden Globes. Golden Globe nominations, that one. I forgot to delete her old thing. So let me show you here, guys. I had to get rid of this one. There you go. This is better. Sorry about that. Can you guys see this okay? I think so. Okay. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. So basically, Golden Globes, we have Venus right there with Pluto in Aquarius on her ascendant. That's super powerful. Juicy, juicy. That's sextile her own Venus. Really good. Sun on her Saturn. Really good. Opposite her Jupiter. Really good. Because the Jupiter is still Lord of the Year. So that's just kind of extra juice that way, while Mercury and Jupiter are translating the information from Gemini to Sagittarius. So that is like highlighting her work. Yes. Something happening. So see all of this energy in her first house. This is like the translation of she's getting more about how she's going to translate how she is in the world. And that's part of that Pluto in Aquarius that's changing. But now we have Venus involved. So from the crowd of the kind of traditional, Hollywood, she's a different presence, right? Like, she is going to show up in a big way. She's already showing, like you say, Big Mood shows her incredible acting range. Yes. Is that what the Golden Globes is? Is it Bridgerton and Big Mood, or Is she being nominated just for big mood? I don't know. Do you think they will be both Nicola and Luke as part of the Golden Globes? I don't know. I pulled Nicola. I'll have to see if I pulled Luke. I think I did. So this is a very positive for her because she's in the Jupiter second house. And even the award ceremony happens before her birthday. So she's still in a Jupiter year. And her Jupiter is so powerful. Oh, yeah. So Bridgerton for the Globes. Yeah, the Golden Globes. Yeah. Okay. And Luke was nominated to the Globes by Netflix. So were they both nominated by Netflix for the Golden Globes? Or I don't know how the nominations for the Golden Globes work. I have no idea. This is not my forte. I just like these two. Anyway, yeah. Okay, so as you can see in her chart, there are multiple points of contact of other planets like activating her in a big way. But the key is that she's in a Jupiter year, which is Jupiter's about expansive, and her Jupiter is highly blessed about more money, more. So you know what I'm saying? Like she's in that year. So if anybody is really gonna show up with like more accolades, will be Nicola this year than Luke, because Luke is in an 8th house and in profection. It's still Jupiter. And his Jupiter is not like, it's good. It's in Libra in the 3rd house, but is not as powerful as Nicola's in the 2nd house. Do you know what I mean? Like, she carries this stuff to the bank this year. Again and again. This just like keeps building. Nicola's chart has so much power in it. Yeah. Anyway. They are submitted for nomination by Netflix. Okay, excellent. So to me, definitely, I would my I guess forecast. I don't really forecast that much, but I normally care about the soul and what the soul is offering to the individual. But I look at where are they growing, but what can they offer us in understanding ourselves through astrology and their experiences. But from a forecasting perspective, I would say because she's in a Jupiter year of expansion, 2nd house about her self-worth, she is taking it to the bank, because 2nd house is about money as well. More contracts, more. And Jupiter in Gemini is more creative work, showing her her versatility in project material. Hi, Haley. Question, did you do any info on when her audiobook was announced? No, I did not do that. If you guys want to, in the community page, drop that in as a detail, I can always look it up later. That was dropped on November 5th, which was right before the election. So that was Pluto still in Capricorn, by the way. Good to know. I'll write it down. November 5th. But is the audiobook already released, or that was just a promo for that audiobook that she did it? I don't know. That's a good one, guys. Because that's very different, right? That was a promo. That was social media drop for Nicola. Yeah. Around, you said about 12 noon London time. I don't know. Yeah, it was very interesting because it's kind of what's this, because Nicola's very interesting in how purposeful she does in her selection of project, right? And what was that book about? What is that book about? It's like her innuendo. And to be honest, I also think Nicola likes to play with us. And that could be a part of that as well, right? Because Jupiter in Gemini, very playful, but you know what I mean? Little Red. Globes nominations are done by the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, okay? A group of international journalists, okay? Journalists, journalists is like Gemini, Sag energy, okay? Published Sag, Gemini, journalism, who cover the U.S. entertainment industry. Very Pisces, very Leo, Libra. These kind of archetypal things. They are viewed as a harbinger of industry buzz. Yep. Okay. Gotcha. Little Red Globes are regarded as less serious than Emmys and Oscars since they are not by members of the industry. Yeah, but don't you think that the Golden Globes have a little bit more trueness to them in terms of who nominates them, not just the industry folks? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I would think. The audiobook drops on Luke's birthday. You can't tell me that the author didn't plan that one. Oh my God. Really? Oh my gosh. February 5th? And how funny is that? Because Luke then goes into a 9th house annual profection. 9th house is also publishing. It's like a mirror. She's doing a mirror. Girl. Oh my gosh. I didn't know that. Okay. Haley, she has the Midas touch this year. Yes, she does. This Jupiter, you can see how powerful her Jupiter is. Just Jupiter in Pisces with Saturn in Pisces just kicking it up an extra notch. Everything she touches. Now, when she goes into the 3rd house and perfection and it's Mars, just watch the difference. You'll be like, whoa. But she still has a powerful Mars. Like she has a Mars in Aries. That girl will drop. It will happen. Things will happen so dynamically, but it'll be so dynamic and so fast. But then with Neptune coming in, it's a whole being swept up. So much energy with the Neptune coming into the Aries and the whole new cycle. Whew, so much stuff. She literally, we like hold on to the reins, girl. It's going fast. The Sag, Screen Actors Guild, their peers, yes, okay. Norma, hard G. I don't know what that is. Hard G. No Golden Globes bottom list. I'm not sure what that was. Norma, and I know that the Golden Globes are probably the bottom of the list, but I think it's relative to. I mean, I know that like Oscars are the creme de la creme and Emmys are for TV, right? So it's all relative. It's the Leo archetype of having a spotlight and having an opportunity to it's like the ego in the spotlight kind of thing. It has its importance, yes, and but it's relative too. And the plot is about how two co-worker actors fall in love. Really? Is that's the plot of that audiobook? The plot about actors falling in love? Oh my gosh. Come on. That girl likes to stir the pot. Anyway, oh gosh, man, it's 3:19, y'all. Are you guys surviving out there? This is crazy. Okay, let me see what else I got here. That's the Golden Globes. That's the nominations. That's Nicola. What else is in there? Is there anything else I missed? Oh, gosh, if the announcement comes out exactly that time, the moon is at 29 Pisces. Neptune's in Pisces. I mean, it would not surprise me if Nicola's not named in that. There's too many things that tied back to Jupiter, and it's still her Jupiter annual perfection, and the sun is in Sag, so it's just like highlighting her. Wow. Okay, next. This is Luke. So if Luke is in the nominations for the Golden Globes, we have his 8th house, which is he's in the 8th house annual perfection. He's also kind of lit up with the moon being there, but again, 8th house is a little bit more hidden. It's different. The way his Jupiter is in his chart and all the things, but it does highlight his North Node. So he definitely, I think you see that he could be on the list because he, come on, look at those two. Season 3 is off the charts, and their acting was incredible. But the promo tour took us into another, atmosphere. But it was just amazing the way that, we watched that thing so many times. My gosh. But his sensitivity, the way he acts with his face and his eyes is stunning. And so it wouldn't be surprising that he isn't on those lists for the nominations for real. With the sun on his North Node. Look at that. Where's Jupiter? Jupiter's on South Node, maybe. Maybe. But the moon is still in 29. It's so close to his 9th house Venus. You see how close that moon is to activating his Venus? I'm wondering if it's close enough in range to activate the Venus, which is his house of Venus is the ruler of his house of career. And so with the Uranus still at 24 of Taurus, it could be that activates his career house and has an unexpected kind of thing there. Yeah. Very, very possible. Because those Golden Globes are, these were the nominations. Let me see where that shifts. This is the event day for Nicola. Let me go to Luke's real quick for a second. Luke, at the Golden Globes say 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. The Golden Globes are in LA, January 5th. So this is before his birthday and even before her birthday. The moon, look at that stack up in Pisces. And Jupiter retrograde in 2025 in January there, 12. Because they're both in a Jupiter annual profection, but Nicola's is more powerful. He could be nominated, but I don't know who the contenders are that he's competing against. But that is still compelling and interesting, right? Because look at the midheaven. Holy moly. Look at the midheaven, the North Node on his Venus, which is highlighting his career. So it wouldn't surprise me that he's nominated. Does it land that he is like chosen? Oh man, there's so many things going on here. Look at the ascendant. Look at the Mars. Ascendant on his moon. Mars on his possible ascendant or within a couple of degrees. So remember that Mars retrograde cycle is very important for Luke. A lot going on with him. And especially as it clicks over his birthday, it's almost like all that stuff is starting to come forward for everything to be seen for the 9th house, right? So because when he turns 32, 9th house and a perfection, that's Mars. Oh, so much. I can't say that he's going to win, but I definitely think he's nominated. And he has a very strong presence. Like people are, of course, they're going to rally for him, right? But because he's in an 8th house annual perfection still, I kind of wonder. He's surrounded by friends. That's the Jupiter and the Gemini. Because this is what might be stunning is if they both are nominated, Netflix will you're going because you represent us. And this is like one of, awards and being visible and all of that. It would be stunning if he didn't show up to an award and he's being nominated, right? That's huge visibility for his career. So he'll have to maybe take a pause on his filming in Rome and go there. If that's the case, to go to LA, little jet setter, wouldn't surprise me. Mars being very visible and still in Leo, activating ascendant, activating as a trine to the being North Node, he would be on, having to go on a plane. Yeah, guys. So So that's going to be interesting. So let's kind of be observers with the astrology kind of, but I think that the nominations, like I feel that's very solid based on what those charts are saying. Winning, I don't know, because it's before he has his ninth house of perfection. But so much energy is moving towards, but by the time the awards are happening and being announced, the Mars is at Leo still. So kind of visible there. Yeah. It would be shocking to see, to me, to see a win from an 8th house annual perfection. I am more inclined to see the 2nd house annual perfection, Jupiter, for Nicola as a winner versus 8th house, if that makes any sense, because timing, but he's still probably in the makeup for the nomination for sure. This is Nicola. Let me see Nicola for a second. Oh, I did the chart again wrong. Dang it. Hold on. I gotta get rid of that one. 1 second. I pulled the wrong chart again. By wheel. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is going to probably be my last little bit here because I've been talking for hours. But it's exciting. Looking at all this stuff, getting excited, because got to have fun. You know what I mean? I need this one. I need this one. I need this one. I need this one. And Golden Globe Awards right there. Thank you for your patience while I bring this one back up. Gotta be careful on the charts. Here we go. Paste. There. Let's see here. Can you see that okay? Let's see. So this is Nicola, Golden Globes, at the awards. What are the potentials? Looking in the future here, January 5th. This is just, 4 days before her birthday? Oh, the buzz will be so big that week for her. But we have the sun in the 12th house. The girl will want to be behind the scenes a little bit. So privacy will be pretty significant. But she has Pluto on the ascendant, Mars on the opposition. That's why, because I wonder about that Mars in opposition to her ascendant. Could that still land her a win at the awards, or is it she is dealing with some kind of invasive photography situation when she wants not to? Like if she's in LA or something, you understand what I'm saying? And we have Uranus 23, but it's not exact on, but it's close. But I look for exactness on Uranus. What's exact here? We have a pile up. Here's where it's interesting. It's almost like one more swoop for grabbing something with the Jupiter year. It's like the final hoorah. So when she's at the awards, even though there might be some other details here of energy, a lot of presence, but something with the Mars. Who's the Mars? Who's the other? Who's with her? Who's the Mars person? And how is that perceived? Because this is right before her birthday, right before the Mars year ahead. So is this Luke coming out? Are they, because if they're at the show together, what do people do? What's the buzz? Did they take a picture together? Is that possible? I don't know. With the sun in Capricorn makes me wonder about wanting to be behind the scenes a little bit and maybe creating some sense of separation still. Because if they do have a relationship, that will just send it off the rails. But is it getting ready for some kind of paradigm shift? I don't know. That Neptune coming to the Aries, 0 degrees of Aries, is so significant in March. So to me, that's not yet the paradigm shift. The paradigm shift will be later. If that makes any sense, guys. Veils start dropping in March. She will definitely be on social media supporting either way. Like you know, like her presence there. If Luke is nominated, she'll support. If she's nominated, he'll support. There'll be that. I mean, the whole fandom's going to go up in a, they're going to go up in smoke. There'll be so much activity. But you see all of the Pisces energy, which is like one last hurrah of, let me give you the tidal wave of, and Venus in Pisces is exalted in, it squares her own Venus, but Venus is a benefic, so it's just she's in the year of a benefic, so more, you know, and Neptune, and so much feeling here too. So, gosh, if she won, it would be off the charts emotionally. I mean, the girl was trying to contain it all. Yeah, so interesting. The Jupiter is retrograde. Where's the, and still Mercury is still in Sagittarius, so it's still translating the Jupiter energy into that 10th, you know, that it's still communicating together. As soon as Mercury leaves Sagittarius, it loses that um, kind of like, it's almost like it gives it a little bit of gift when otherwise challenged. Do you know what I mean? So it's actually quite powerful. So it'll be very, very interesting. The question mark to me is what's the Mars challenge presenting? Because remember, Mars is also a challenge. Is it an invasive kind of photographer type trying to get her picture? But that kind of event, you're going to have that anyway. Or is it something else that she feels from the crowd of photographers that could, you know, because she had a certain experience at the Emmys, right? And so that was right around an eclipse. And I talked about that. We don't necessarily have an eclipse in January, right? For example. So this is a different kind of energy. This is really more invasive about what they might say to her and then how she might respond. I mean, and the one example I have in my mind is Chaparral Roan and how she handled the photographers, or whatever they're called, paparazzi, at some recent event, and how she responded to them, and um, and she remembered them from another. This was Chaperone example, but it wouldn't be surprising to me if there's not something kind of similar that then Nicola has to speak about that, right? So it kind of makes me wonder about that, how she might speak to something that is a little bit more invasive to her, and then how that relationship with that, what she communicates publicly, because she's having to respond to some kind of thing that feels maybe somewhat invasive, because she's trying to be a little bit private on the private life. So it could be around that. And she wants to keep it focused on the work, because that's the Jupiter and the Gemini, but she's getting the duality of, yes, it's your work, but people are going to be like this and that about you, and you know, all of that energy, and then what's communicated, and people crossing boundaries. That's the Mercury and the Sagittarius, so they're going up, they're crossing boundaries, right? So these can be part of the equation around the Golden Globes. However, I wonder if she, you know how she's done behind the scenes invite, come see me, get ready for blah, 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 blah. I wonder if she doesn't take that little bull by the reins and do it herself by doing some like get ready behind the scenes, and uses it as a branding moment. Dollar, dollar, dollar. It's, you know, because that's what the business is. It's about, you know, and it's Jupiter's second house, about the money, her income. So it wouldn't be surprised if that's not the invitation. She takes charge. She's the one who says who gets to come in. Do you know what I mean? It makes me wonder about that. But the Mars can still be a little bit challenging to navigate, because it is the thing that can be the trip up, the thing that activates her about, I have the right to privacy, guys, to a certain, you know, like where that line is drawn, and then who crosses it, you know, because the Mercury is in Sagittarius, you know, kind of combination. Anyway, that was a long, long live, don't you think? that was a lot. There's so much that can happen at the Golden Globes, which will be very interesting. But let's just see what happens on the nominations coming up here real soon, because of the nomination charts. Really, really interesting. Oh, here on the nominations, see, like Luke, we talked about the Mars. Mars at 6 degrees intensifies on his chart because that is a stationed Mars, now retrograde. So what does it bring him back around? So what is that nomination? But the nominations come out before the Mars is really, this is what's interesting about the Golden Globe nominations for Luke have the Mars sitting right where it was retrograde in his first house. So is that highlighting something for him and his own persona in the world and what he gives to the world, which is then pointing to the other person, possibly Nicola in this case? Or do we have some shocking, is there still a shocking thing that can happen? Yes, there still can be a shocking thing that happened because Uranus, opposite this part of his chart, there's still some volatility to all this stuff because of what Luke has experienced before. That can still be a buzz. It's like who would he take to the Golden Globes, or if he goes by himself? Oftentimes they're partnered up with somebody, but sometimes they go by themselves. It would be stunning if he took his sister. Just look like keep the noise down, because of her Jupiter, and it's 8th house and the profection for him. Jupiter in the 3rd house. His sister would be visible again. Anyway, there's so much that I'm learning from these two, and how the mirroring effect of their charts is. It's just like forecasting is interesting, but I'm seeing how things have been activated for Luke, which has been super powerful. Yeah, and his mother. The mother is interesting because when the Mars goes back into Cancer, kind of highlights his moon, so that to me carries themes mom, but that isn't till later, right? Like later in the cycle. So anyway, yeah, I hope it's Luke. It would be interesting. But I look at things very objectively, guys. I think if I were Nicola and Luke and they wanted to keep the relationship, if they are in a relationship and they wanted to keep it private, they will even try to keep it private even longer, unless they are choosing to do something about, but I think there's still the prominent desire to keep it private, like Tom and Zendaya, or even what's his name, Ryan Gosling and his wife, very private, but he's at the shows, right? Like if they're together, there's I don't know, these famous couples, how they will manage that. That it's just, Nicola's stamp on her chart is to be private with that chosen person. Luke would fall in line with the partner, absolutely, right? But it will leak out. So I don't know how they would manage that. I think Tom and Zendaya, even though we know that exists because of a pap leak, because I think there is a potential for a pap leak on Luke and Nick if that's the case in the future. But I just don't know how in the future that is. That could be, that might be 4 years out. I don't know. And then what transpires after that point? I don't know. At some point, if that's a real relationship, they will be very, very private, but there could be a transition moment of a paradigm shift. I mean, hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, thank you, everyone. I think this has been quite fun, quite extraordinary exploration. I'm going to give that one more time for, if you want to share your generosity with me for doing all this work and exploring these things to have fun. I'll put that down there in case you want it. But thank you, everyone, absolutely, for everything coming. I love your questions. I know that there were some things that weren't answered, but I hope by what I did put together, many were answered. And then some new fun stuff came in, and you got to see some fun stuff with the astrology. But I do have more videos coming, so we'll take a look at the astrology of the coming paradigm shift. I mean, now that we have Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune is coming into Aries. We have a new era on the horizon as it emerges with other big transformational things happening for us individually and collectively. And these, you know, we are fans of Nicola and Luke, Claudia. Soon, maybe we'll also look at Lucy Hale's stuff, which will be interesting, but absolutely Nicola and Luke. So thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate you being here. I'm trying to build my little channel in this corner of the internet, and share my astrology because it is my passion. And I'm trying to make it come on in a bigger way, and because I think it's really important that can be shared with the world. And I like to do it in a fun way. I think it's more fun when we are looking at a subject that we have fun with anyway, and then we get the bits and pieces for astrology for ourselves along the way. And that's why I do it the way I do, versus just reading planetary transits, like the weather. It's more fun when we have something that we actually enjoy and find pleasure in too. You know what I mean? So thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day and weekend. I love you. Bye. Let's see if I can stop the share. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please, everyone, like the video. It does help so much in how people come across the video in the feeds. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Yes, Galway videos are coming. They're in the final edit right now. Yes. I got delayed a little bit with my computer issues, but on the way, guys, on the way. Thank you. Take care.